What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 9 of Revolutionary Instigators. Today we have our first guest, Terrence, who's a member of the Boys in the Huddle podcast. He's a friend and former co-worker of Ray and I's, so welcome into the podcast and enjoy the show. This is where you say it's groovy, right?
Yeah, that's some groovy shit, man. You know, you have consistently hit me with the hot shit, and I appreciate it because not only do our listeners get a new taste of good music, you know, I come up on some shit, so it's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, I'll have to give you a name after because I have no idea who that's by.
I thought it was gonna be Mac Miller.
No.
You know, we not gonna start.
R.I.P.
We're not going.
Well, we want to welcome Terrence to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely.
Should be
Good
fun.
shots.
Should be fun.
Yeah, and so Terrence is, a friend of Ray and I's and former coworker, but also a member of the Boys in the Huddle podcast that you guys started kind of before us, but right around the same time that we started.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. We try to focus on sports and make it cool, and we center around the term, quote unquote, the culture, which I don't even know what that means anymore, but
it does.
We try to relate it to a demographic that we grew up in, and it's been going pretty good.
Shout out Philly.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We started out as supposed to be an Eagles podcast, but
Yeah.
we don't talk about the Eagles at all. So it's still evolving.
I mean,
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also hard
Relax.
during.
Relax.
It's hard when it's not in season right now either. So,
Yeah.
but I guess it was for a little while there. But
Yeah,
also
even when it was
playoff
in season,
time,
we didn't talk about it.
holidays.
Too much
It's
about
hard. It's hard.
I mean,
And we're not every week, so being bi-weekly is hard to stay on top of what's
course,
going
because
on.
so much happens.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but it's fun, man. Definitely enjoy it. We're going to have you guys on there, do a mashup, what I mean? Switch this thing off.
Sure, I can bring some
But-
baseball knowledge, maybe some
We
football knowledge.
we need to talk about baseball
Hey, Philly's
more.
gotten good this year.
Bryce Harper's coming to town.
I heard today he might have made a decision, so who knows? It could be Philly.
you think it's gonna be Philly?
I hope it's not for $300 million.
It's gonna
It's
be
gonna
a lot
be.
for a
I
lot.
don't-
Of
It's
money.
gonna be.
I don't think.
Well, they've waited so long to sign him. Now it's just going down and down and down.
Yeah.
And me and you spoke about this. I don't think baseball markets their stars well.
Not at all. No,
They used to, but they don't anymore.
I was listening to the most recent episode that you guys had on Boys in the Huddle, and you were talking about, I believe, Embiid, about if he's a superstar or not. And I remember you and I having the same conversation,
Yep.
and if baseball has any superstars. And I think we mentioned maybe Bryce Harper at the time was.
I think it was Trout. I think it was because he's supposed to be the best.
I was trying to make the argument that he was, but he's just not known on
Nobody
this
knows
coast.
him.
Yeah, because
Nobody
he's on the other coast.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, they do not market their
No,
stuff
because
well at
back
all.
in the day, Ken Griffey had a sneaker. He had commercials. You had Sammy, and you had Mark McGwire.
Yup.
Yeah.
We knew of them from the home run race.
Yep.
I don't think Barry Bonds ever had a sneaker. Baseball is tough to sell sneakers, but
It is.
Dion had his sneakers.
I remember Frank Thomas had one. He always had
Big
cleats.
Hurt?
Yeah, he had cleats that you could buy at least for baseball.
I don't remember the Big Hurt.
Yeah, he had some. He had some at one point.
I
but
believe it.
Yeah, he's one of the best home run hitters of all time.
But we knew all those guys, and I think mass markets knew, like the world knew those.
Yeah, you're
guys.
right. It is odd that they didn't keep up with the times at all.
What do you think happened? What do you think happened to make baseball fall off the way it did?
The era of
PEDs,
maybe, but
backlash from it.
But you also need instant gratification nowadays, and you can't have that in baseball. It's just not
it's
possible.
impossible.
There's moments of instant gratification, but you're never gonna get like back and forth type stuff like you would in football or basketball.
I have noticed that.
Well, even football is kind of slower compared to like hockey or basketball.
Sure. Like I have noticed that baseball is a thinking man and a patient man sports.
For sure.
Like if you're a statistician, you like math, and you have a good memory, and you're patient, that sport is perfect for you, but
Yeah.
I don't think
I
that's.
grew up a big baseball fan though, and I'm not into it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually speaking with some guys at work about doing the fantasy just so I can
Get back into
find
it.
a reason to get back into it.
I think Sam Hager did that. Sorry, I used the full name of someone, but
Shit.
anyways, yeah, he did that
He'd be alright.
back at our old
Into it.
stomping grounds. Yeah, just to get back into it. And he was
Yeah.
like, I don't even know who these guys are I'm picking up, but I'm doing it.
It's going to force
they're
me to
doing well.
learn
Yeah.
what's going on again.
That's kind of how it works for me every year. Is I use it as a way to know what's going on.
And I will say the World Series, it was the Astros and the Dodgers.
Mhm.
That shit was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I didn't
it was.
know
It was
who was
crazy.
playing outside
It was
of
crazy.
my man Kershaw. What's his name?
Kershaw.
Yeah.
He was the only one I really knew.
Yep.
But that was a hell of a series.
It was phenomenal.
I watched that, and it's a shame. I don't know what the ratings were, but most people probably did. You know?
What was before the Indians and the Mets?
No, that was the
Or am I tripping?
Cubs and the Indians.
I'm sorry, Cubs and the Indians.
Yeah,
Those
that was
colors fuck
two
with me.
years ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
it
was
was
a great
that was
World
insane
Series,
too.
man.
Yep, because neither of them have won in a long time.
I went to the
Oh, did you?
yeah.
Wow.
You went to a game?
Dell sent me to Chicago. My man Chris
Sheesh.
Carroll. Shout out to
damn.
Chris Carroll.
Damn.
Turn
He
up.
sent me out
Full
there.
names all day.
I was at Game 5. That was the first game
What?
Chicago won.
Oh, damn.
It was
Damn.
crazy. That Wrigley Field area, I forget what they call that area, but that shit is dope.
Yeah,
Super
it's pretty
lit.
cool.
That shit
Yeah.
is dope.
It's a very old stadium.
Yeah.
I know you're a Boston fan, but I remember I went to like
Look at this room.
I went to like a random Boston game against St. Louis, and it was like game 50 something. When I showed up to the stadium, it felt like game 7.
Yeah, no.
It's just when you go to places like that, you realize that the culture is different around these type of sports.
Where
It's
was
just-
it? In St. Louis?
It was in Boston.
Oh, yeah. Either
It
one of
was
those towns.
insane,
Either one
man.
of those towns would be that.
And I'm talking about shoulder to shoulder, and this is what you would call
Almost
like
all their
game
games sell
20.
out.
It was like that would be the equivalent of like game 23 in the NBA, where it's like it's cool, but nobody's fucking
Yeah,
you know what I
We're
mean?
not in the groove yet.
Nobody
Yeah.
gives
Nobody
a shit.
cares about the NBA until after
Right.
Christmas.
It's hard.
It
Until
was
Christmas.
It's hard to
packed,
care
bro.
that long, for
Yeah,
sure.
those fans are different, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope.
But
Hopefully-
yeah, we'll definitely have us on to give our take on what you guys decide to discuss, whether it's Eagles or what have you.
No, yeah. We talk about everything from a social, cultural standpoint, but it has to involve sports.
Okay.
We try to branch off from time to time with topics around music or movies, but that's just segments we have. Sucker or OG Move, one of our great segments.
I really like the movie one where it was the bracket of the basketball versus the football movies.
Yeah, we did a March Madness style sports movies of all time.
Because I've always had
dope.
that argument with people whether Remember the Titans or Friday Night Lights is a better football movie.
It's not a
tough
competition.
one, man.
It's not a
Wait,
competition.
which way are you going?
Friday Night Lights.
Okay,
It's
all right,
not a
okay,
competition.
okay, yeah. I'm
Okay,
glad-
it
I'm
won.
glad.
It's
It
not
won
a
out. It won out.
competition,
From the
bruh.
football bracket.
Yeah.
My cousin was in Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
So-
and you know what's crazy? When I heard the podcast, I didn't even know that, and
Yeah.
maybe you had told me before, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew that him from me and my brother were talking about famous Jet Jackson.
Jet Jackson.
Yeah,
I used to
from
tell
the Disney
everybody
Channel.
my cousin is Jet Jackson.
What?
Absolutely.
For real?
But he committed suicide. It's something we were just kind of talking about. You don't know what
Uh-huh.
people are dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the family always thought he was like the prize joy of the family.
hmm
You don't know what people are dealing with, man.
yeah,
You
definitely.
know?
That
yeah.
shit scares me because I know playing football. I'm sure you guys play football, played a bunch of sports, hit your head a lot, and you see all those football players going through it. And I'm like, damn, I've had a bunch of concussions, and it just shakes me. I'm like,
Yeah.
does that mean I'm gonna just spaz out and do some wild shit or hurt
Yeah.
somebody or hurt myself?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's some shit I think about.
Yeah,
a
I
lot,
have a
man.
friend that has, completely different sport, but playing soccer, he has migraines to this day just randomly because of like heading the ball
Yep.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like you never know what stuff could do to your brain
Yep.
later
Another
on.
person, I'm not going to say his full name because we got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Kai used to talk
Okay.
all the time about these headaches and migraines that he had. He played football
Oh, yeah.
all the
there you
way
go.
out throughout college.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So he played ODU. So
That's a big boy.
right, but he's always talking about these migraines, and he just couldn't take it.
hmm
He had to go see the doctor, and it's just like football, man.
CTE of some
yeah,
sort.
if you got kids, man, I don't know if it's worth it, man.
I think 100% I would. It's not necessarily that I would prevent my kid from playing football. I
Oh,
would
yeah.
just really push other sports. I'd be like, yo, baseball.
Yeah,
basketball,
my parents wouldn't
soccer.
let me play, or at least my mom wouldn't, and I don't. I probably wouldn't let my child play just because. Yeah, there's so many other things you could do, and they would last longer. You could make more money. I mean, not that it's about that, but also your head would be fine.
Yeah.
So.
Flag football is more popular for the youth now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flag football is
That's
real
good to
big.
know.
Yeah.
I would have them play flag, and they say they shouldn't play tackle until probably middle school.
Okay.
So if he learns the basics through flag and he really wanted to play, then maybe I would allow it.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be getting hit in the head since 5 years
At like
old.
6,
You know what I mean?
just smashing each other, bro.
When I was
like-
in middle school and high school, though, on any like half day or off day, we were out there playing football with
no helmets,
no pads, no helmets, just hitting each other, and that was so
They-
dumb.
It was so
they
fun.
People
kinda
broke
say-
things
Yes.
all the time.
Facts.
back in the day with the leather helmets might have been better, is what some people say.
That makes sense.
I had
Yeah.
a friend that got a concussion on one of the fields. He was just laid out on the sidelines, and we had to take him to the hospital. His mom was a nurse, and she took care of him. He had a concussion. But while he was laying there, somebody pulled his cleats off because they needed him to go back
That
into
is
the game.
savage shit.
It was at a park near my house.
I got a concussion in 10th grade,
hmm
high school basketball. I was going up for the dunk. No, not really.
We both looked at him like, son,
I was
word.
like, damn, did you used to be able to dunk?
I wasn't going up for the dunk, but I was going up for the rebound. And somebody clipped me, landed dead on my head. Like, people thought my neck should have been snapped.
Damn.
The way that I came down straight down on my head.
Mm.
And I think that prevented me from being a genius. I was
Oh,
on my
God.
way. I was
That's
on
what
my
it was.
way. That's what it was.
Yep.
Hey, look, I believe that shit, bro. Because, man, I swear sometimes when I was in high school, right before I started, like, really trying at football, because I thought I had a future. Like, Alabama State gave me an offer letter.
Okay.
And Alabama State,
Didn't
no,
know
they're
all
not. They're not that nice. They're not. Let's.
If you nice, you're going to get discovered no matter what.
went to
right. Granted,
You know
I
what
went to a
mean?
Christian college to play sports too, right?
yo, they were trash. But still, I went.
Alabama
I-
State ain't no Christian college.
No, it's not a Christian college. It's not a Christian college. I went and I looked at I watched them practice. I was like, bruh, no way. And they were like, oh, we're gonna get you big and all of that. But I was like, there's no chance I ever have. Oh, well, I didn't think I had a chance. I probably did. They probably would get me there.
Right.
But like, I look at the right before I really started giving football my all. I'm with you. I feel like I was really smarter before that. Right before I was just letting my head fly wherever.
Yeah.
Right before that point, I think I had a chance of actually like saying some intriguing shit. And then I just lost it, man.
Yeah.
Just became a
I was a
dumbass.
genius in math.
Damn.
Facts. Me
I
too.
don't
Me
think
too.
I ever got a concussion, so I have no excuse.
So you just an idiot just to
I'm
be.
Yep. This is natural. All natural over here.
all natural idiot. Grass
All
fed.
natural dumbass.
Grass
over here.
fed. That's that organic dumbass.
As we've said many times before on the podcast, nobody here claims to be an expert in anything.
Bruh, I wish.
Professional amateurs at this.
Yeah, I wish somebody would call me an expert. I'd fight them. I swear I would.
So I did want to ask you just about the podcast so far. So what do you think's been like the defining moment so far for you guys?
Defining
Maybe
moment?
just in terms of topics you guys have talked about.
You know, we recently had a episode. Our latest episode was about trying to boycott Mississippi. I want to try to start some kind of movement around boycotting universities in Mississippi.
Can you explain?
Based on the recent senator, she won the election in November, Cindy Hyde-Smith, where she made the statement around if she was at some event where she was endorsing a councilman or something, and she made the statement, if he had a public hanging, I'd be on the front row. And then later on, a few weeks later, she won the Senate seat in Mississippi. She never really apologized for it. She tried to say, well, you know my record, I work with all colors of the rainbow, and I've always been out there and working with people that didn't look like me, is what she tried to say. But she didn't necessarily apologize for what she said. So I think the Mississippi thing needs to be addressed through where we hold our power. And the one movement that I saw work of recent years was the Missouri football team boycotted.
I remember that.
And they said they weren't going to play if the president wasn't fired. There was a kid that had been starving himself for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
He set up a tent.
Damn, just so the president would quit?
He wanted to see the president quit because of
Wow.
the racial issues that were going on campus.
That's commitment right there.
they were going to let him die. They were going to let him die until the football team backed him and said, "We're not going to play this Saturday."
Wow.
Unless this
That's
guy
what
is
you got to
is done.
You got to hit the university's pockets.
They would have lost over $1 million if
There you
the
go.
football team didn't play. So I think that needs to be used as a model where we need to realize where our power is, empower these kids. And I think no out-of-state athlete, no out-of-state recruit needs to go to any school in Mississippi until she steps down. And I'm not done with this movement. It didn't get much of a rally just yet, but I'm going to still try to push it and make it happen.
Hey,
So,
you put the tweet out. We're retweeting it from our account.
all right, let's make it happen. It's called Mute Mississippi.
So can you give me some further context? So she was saying that this dude should be publicly hanged. I'm assuming this dude was a black dude.
She didn't say anybody need to be hung. She was actually going up against a black man. That was the person that was going against her for the Senate seat. She was at an event where she was trying to sponsor and endorse a council person also running.
Okay.
And she said if he had a public hanging, she would be front row to support him.
Basically, like she would support him no matter what.
Right.
Is what she was referencing. But
Right.
people think she was referencing lynchings
In
that have
Mississippi,
happened.
of all states.
Yeah.
That's not the terminology you need to use. But you're also trying to speak to a certain base of people, in my opinion,
Right.
where
That
this
could
woman's
very well be
creating
correct.
policy for those folks in Mississippi and throughout the country.
Right.
She shouldn't be in position to do that.
Now, I did hear that on your podcast episode, but I also thought, and this is kind of the first, just I'm looking at it right now on NPR, but this is kind of the first I've heard of it. But I mean, you would hope that she's just referencing. I mean, at the same time, public hangings have been a thing all the way back for, I would think, hundreds of years. That's how people died for the longest of times. So
That's how black people die.
Yes, I understand that, and that especially in Mississippi, that's something to be very sensitive about. But and you would think that with her upbringing and the time that she was raised, that's definitely what she was most likely referencing. But
Right.
I don't know if she's apologized or anything for that yet. Has she?
She hasn't apologized. She tried to skate around it. She had money given to her by Walmart. They tried to rescind that. I don't know if they ever actually got it back. Google came out and said that they don't stand by her comments, but they didn't ask for their donation back. So I think it's funny because a lot of people told me they hadn't heard of it, and I'm just like, that's crazy. You haven't heard of it.
So much news.
It needs to be out there more,
Yeah.
and it's almost like now it's over. Nobody's talking about it. And to me, black people worrying about the wrong shit. That whole thing with Gucci.
I don't know about that. Where have I been?
Yeah.
There's a sweater where basically people are wearing it like up halfway up their face, and it's got like big red lips on it, and it's all black, so it looks like someone
blackface.
basically wearing blackface in a sweater.
And I saw the slippers too.
And it's just people are boycotting Gucci now because of it. There's a lot of news to keep up with, Ray. Come on, come on. No, I know there's too much, man. There's too much.
Black people worry about the wrong things. Why would you want to continue to try to gain acceptance from a brand that never gave a damn about you anyway? That's what we're fighting?
I mean, that's what I was going to question. Like, why boycott Gucci? I don't know too many people that can really afford Gucci, black, white, in between. Right, so
that's what we want to make a stink
how
about?
was that a statement? I don't understand.
Let's make a real stink that can make some change in effect by getting behind this mute Mississippi. Fuck Gucci.
But I will also say that I do truly feel that sometimes statements get attributed to people that may not necessarily be what they meant. This is the game I typically try to play of, at least let me hear your side first before I attribute.
Just jump on you.
Yes.
Right.
Because remember what happened with that Covington kid, who the Indian guy with the drum came up to that Covington high school kid who was wearing the Make America Great Again hat, and it turned out that the whole narrative that the media tried to push and that people were saying wasn't necessarily what was actually going on.
They were actually had some issue with the black Israelites.
Exactly.
It wasn't even
You
about
react too
Indians.
quickly, and then,
Right.
But it's also, that kid's a dick because most kids are dicks.
He's 15, he's like what, 15?
He was probably doing that to get at the Native American guy to get on his nerves because as a teenager you do shit like that. But also the guy walked up to him and beat the drum. Who knows?
The guy said he came over to try to diffuse what was going on between those kids and the black Israelites. He came over and started beating the drum to try to diffuse the situation. And you're right, the media put it out there as this kid was just being disrespectful to the Native Americans and their movement and what they're trying to do. That's not what that situation was even about.
No.
The kid is still a dick.
Yeah.
Don't get it wrong.
He's a 16-year-old kid.
I mean,
But the
That
media
works.
would tell you or put a spin on it any kind of way, because now, and my man Denzel said this, now it's not about the truth. It's not about the facts. It's about who's first.
Yep.
It really is.
People try to just be first without collecting all
Yep.
the information. And that's scary. That's a problem.
And you would hope that once people jump to these conclusions and they're found out that they're wrong, that there would be dire consequences for that. But there's no incentive for them to stop.
No, there's a market to be first, though.
Exactly.
There's such a big market to be first to report something,
Exactly.
whether it's wrong or not. You can edit your headline later. It's digital, you know. No, only the people that saw it first are going to know that it was wrong.
Just think about it. We do the same thing.
Yeah.
If
course.
you hear about something first, you on that group text trying to get it out there before anybody else, because you want to be first.
Absolutely.
Feel like you broke that shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, y'all didn't hear about that? I got you.
It's the same thing on
got
social
you.
media. People do it. You know,
Yeah.
if you didn't see an article somewhere, you're like, oh, I'll post this. No one's
Right.
posted
I'm
this
breaking
yet.
news.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Yep.
Adam Schefter.
There we go.
Call me Shefty.
Bro, this is kind of off topic, but it's kind of related. I had to convince one of my aunts of some fake news shit and she thought she was breaking some news to us. And like, oh, did y'all hear about this? And I had to be like,
You're like, that's wrong.
come on, yo. What are you talking about? You have no idea.
Yeah, I was at back home earlier this week and happened to be getting ready in the morning and at my mother's house and watching the news that she watches in the morning just because the TV was on, and just thinking like, this is how certain people get their information every day, and it's just it was all about some people saying ugly remarks on Twitter about Jewish people or something like that, and it's just like, why is that what people want to hear early in the morning right before they go to work? I don't understand it.
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Nor will I try to.
But I mean, that's great that you guys are trying to talk about issues that are relevant and at least start some type of movement.
Right.
Or is there any type of movement like that going right now?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah.
I've tagged Killer Mike. I tagged Sean King, and David Banner in my post. Of course, there was no response there, but I'm gonna keep going at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you gotta do.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going at it. But another thing that we touched on since we spoke on the Gucci thing was in one of our episodes called "For the Culture" is having the wrong people in the room, and I think that's maybe what happened with the Gucci situation. You have no diversity in the room. There's no one in there to say, hey, this might be offensive to this particular group. This might not.
Yeah, how did that get passed at all?
Because there's no diversity.
Yeah, that's what you have to understand, because there's no possible way that if there was any person of color in that room, there would be that would get through it all. You would think.
Can I ask a question?
Or anyone of younger than the age of 40?
Some people
50?
think that it may be a publicity stunt. I'm not
to
total,
get
everybody's talking about it now.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So let me.
All we got to do is apologize, and everybody will be back on board.
I guess a boycott's good for business sometimes.
So let me ask you this though: if the intent was to not offend, does that? So why get offended? If you see that somebody, well, I'm not saying why do you get offended, but if it turns out that somebody's intentions were truly to not offend and it was just stupidity, shouldn't we just be addressing the stupidity and not necessarily that they might be some racist fucking, just out to belittle black people? And it's just, and if it was truly made in bad taste, I don't see what then the outrage is for.
I agree with you, just because again, like I said before, black people worry about the wrong things, and to try to boycott Gucci, and I think T.I. came out with a 3-month protest. 3 months.
He planned it out.
What is that going to do?
He's got a 3-month plan protest.
What are you talking about?
You ain't gonna buy Gucci for 3 months, bro.
3 months. I'm gonna miss the whole early winter season.
What are you talking about? To me, that tells me he's just trying to get it at a discount when it's out of season. He just wants to get it when it goes into the factory store. Because that doesn't make any sense to me. Like a 3-month boycott.
Yeah.
that means you just trying to piggyback and get some clout. They call it clout chasing now. You're trying to piggyback and get clout off of something like that.
Well, some people, I mean, just like you said, people want to be first, and this is first. It's really the same type of thing.
Right.
Someone wants to be first to say Gucci should be boycotted.
Right.
Or be the first out there, or be boycotting the hardest,
right?
You know.
But then my issue also comes in just thinking about, all right, you saying that there are no people of color in there to second guess that judgment to put something out there. Then you have to say, all right, we need to get a Chinese person in the room to make sure that, and then we got to get an Indian, and then we got to get a Muslim, and then we got to. So where would it stop?
Where does it end?
Right.
I don't think that you need every single race to be in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have someone who is a minority, as minorities, we relate to other minorities. And if it's a black person in the room and they say, we want to do this red dot Indian campaign, or they say, we want to do this Native American Indian redskin campaign, there's going to be somebody in the room, as long as they're a minority, they can identify that, hey, this is not going to fly with this group.
Yeah, this is going to be bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
And you know what? I don't know who was in the room. I don't know what the intention was with Gucci.
Right.
But
it as I said, it's hard to figure out how some shit like that gets out there when it's Gucci, who's supposed to be, I mean, I don't own anything Gucci,
right.
but it's supposed to be, you know, a company that designs the nicest of products.
Unless they intentionally
Exactly, and they wanted the publicity from
put it out there that way.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan is a New York designer. Used to design a lot of stuff in the 80s for a lot of the Mike Tyson and the drug dealers.
That's about it.
The drug dealers back in the day he used to take the Gucci print, the Louis Vuitton print, and design his own stuff without their knowledge and without having the licensing to do it. Recently, over the past 5 years, Gucci actually recognized Dapper Dan. He has his own store in Harlem, New York. It's Dapper Dan Gucci store, to where they gave him a stamp.
Wow.
And he sat down, the CEO and president of Gucci flew from Italy to Harlem, New York to meet with Dapper Dan today.
Wow.
And there's some demands that were supposedly made, and they're working with Dapper Dan to try to figure out where they went wrong and what they can do to fix this.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're trying to right one wrong while they're committing another.
So I mean, we'll see what happens.
This brings up a very. I always go to conspiracy theories in my mind, and it brings up like a larger point to me, where it's almost like a misdirection by these companies, but by the government can do that type of thing as well, to where, you know, a lot of things are happening in the with Trump's different things, that his scandals and things like that. So there's a shutdown, there's not a shutdown, there's different news that comes out every day that you think, is this really something that they're doing, or is it just a way to divert my attention away from something? And that's kind of what you're saying Gucci could be doing as well, that they're diverting their attention away from their bad campaign with trying to make, you know, reconcile with this guy Dapper Dan.
And that could have always been the plan, because how many times do we see people say something they shouldn't have said, they come out with a public apology, and people forget about it and they move on.
Yeah.
But
news cycle's quick now.
Right. But for that moment, you capitalized and you controlled.
That's your 15 minutes.
Yeah, you got your 15 minutes
All
for the week.
publicity is good publicity.
Right. So now, if most people probably heard of Gucci, but if you were a younger kid and you weren't really up on it like that just yet, now you're going to start looking into, why is everybody so upset about this? Let me go to their website.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
This shit is actually pretty fly.
That's true. That's true.
Expensive as shit.
I want this shit. Get a job. Okay, shit. I'm going to go get a job so I can buy me some Gucci.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows what the plan was behind it, but, you know, and we can move on from this.
No, I like this discussion.
I think for Dapper Dan is a prime example.
Yeah.
He was designing since the early 80s. He was taking imprints from other brands and designing. He's a world-renowned designer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
All the stars were going to him, and at this point, they go to him for suits to get tailored and get set up. Why is Dapper Dan not have his own brand? Why is Dapper Dan not have his own clothing line that he's pushing that people can get behind and support? So until black people want to do that, I'm not with no protest, no boycotting of nothing because it's too separated. And if you're not going to hold your own designers and your own brands up, then all this other stuff is trivial, in my opinion.
I have to agree with that. I mean, Andrew's heard a lot of my opinions regarding this. I do think black people's angst for the most part is misplaced. I couldn't agree more. And I think if we, again, I try not to speak for people as a whole, but I've been a part of the culture since my birth, so I think I have a right to say a little bit of something. But if we stop putting the blame outside of ourselves and saying, white people doing this, okay, what can we do? Let's do everything in our power first. And then if at that point we're still meeting headwinds, okay, somebody else is doing something. But like, let's take care of our own shit first before we start playing the victim. That's always how I've looked at it.
And it's deep rooted.
Of course.
It's deep rooted, and it's more than just saying we need to support our own, and it's more than just saying stop pointing the finger. I agree with what you're saying, but it's so deeply rooted. If you look at what they did in Tulsa back in the day, you look what they did to Black Wall Street.
Yep.
When we tried to do that, when you look at what they've done to our leaders, from those of the Black Panthers. I was watching a phenomenal Black Panther documentary on PBS. It's probably going to show it again since Black History Month, but it was phenomenal. And what they did to Fred Hampton, what they've done to Malcolm X, and what they did to Martin Luther King. When you try to uphold these people and they are chosen leaders, we see what happened. Yeah. So that discourages people going forward. That's the whole plan behind that.
Yeah, I mean it's lead by example, and if your examples have all been kind of shut down by authority figures, then it's hard to lead, to follow that example.
Right.
Yeah.
And Fred Hampton was a powerful player.
Fred Hampton was pretty.
I don't know much about him.
His voice was, he was loud.
The thing you should watch this. The thing you would like about Fred Hampton. A lot of people like to look at the Black Panthers like they were these black trying to overthrow the government and militant people, right? And that was one of the problems with the group is they were divided in there.
Yeah, because some of them were.
Of course, you're always going to have that.
But Fred Hampton was different. Fred Hampton. There was apparently an Asian group that he was in connection with, that he was working with.
Oh, wow.
He
was just doing it for everybody.
Hillbillies is what they call it in the documentary. They called it like like there was an organization similar to the Black Panthers where impoverished white people. He was like, what's bringing us all together is we're impoverished and we're not getting opportunity.
Everybody's poor.
Right. We're all poor. So So there was and it was powerful. This he was clearly like a hillbilly. He was a white dude. He was like, I'm standing with Fred Hampton because I know he's got my back, and if he ever needs anything from me, I got his.
Right.
White man.
Yeah.
And he was trying to bring those groups together to say, we are being left out, we are being boxed out. Why don't we work together? They didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
So they killed him.
And that's why my argument is it's something deeper. I've mentioned this before. I think it's more rich poor than anything to do with color, because the people who have been targeted and assassinated have been the ones who are promoting togetherness by everyone. Right. When you're just strictly pro-black, like Louis Farrakhan, do what you want. We don't care. Louis Farrakhan has spewed the most. But
once you gain any type of traction within the actual...
Like, Louis Farrakhan has traction, but what he doesn't promote is togetherness. Louis Farrakhan is like, one way, black people, fuck everybody else.
Yeah, Louis wants separation.
Yes.
They're fine with that.
They're absolutely fine with division. But as soon as you start making the claim like, yo, you're a poor white dude, I'm a poor black dude, you're a poor Spanish dude, you're a poor Asian dude, we all have the same experience.
Yep.
You start talking like that, that's when they come after you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say deeply rooted, if you watch this documentary, you'll see they had an informant on the inside. The FBI had an informant on the inside with Fred Hampton.
In the Black Panthers?
In Fred Hampton's group specifically.
Oh, okay.
He gave them the full layout to Fred Hampton's apartment building.
Jesus Christ.
They reenacted and they built a whole scene of his apartment complex.
So they could practice.
So they could practice killing him.
Killed him in his sleep.
And have the story already planned out.
So they shot him while he was sleeping?
Oh, yeah.
They shot him
next
while
to
he
his
was
wife.
sleeping.
next to his wife.
He wasn't
Did they
a
harm
threat.
her?
Hmm?
They harm her as well.
No, she
No,
lived.
She lived.
That
She
makes
lived.
it way more
Yes,
suspicious.
that's what made
the
it more suspicious to me.
How
yeah.
like if you're
How do you shoot people in the dark and just only hit this one person?
you don't
Right.
leave witnesses, as I tell you one
was
thing.
wild.
That's what the
So when people
Jesus
talk
Christ.
about
It was wild.
the conflict that we have today with law enforcement is deeply rooted.
yeah.
They had
And
the
stories
right
that
to kill this
that
man.
I would say a lot of people don't know. I mean, I had no idea who Fred Hampton was
Yeah.
until right just now.
Fred Hampton, it's for as much as Fred Hampton did, you know, right before Martin Luther King took off, and even during that time, Fred Hampton was he was beyond Martin Luther King, honestly. I don't know what was the thing that separated Martin Luther King. Maybe it's because he was entrenched with the White House, where Fred Hampton wasn't as much, but so eventually, Martin Luther King just ended up becoming the voice. But Fred Hampton, for a while, was one of the strongest voice pushing this civil rights movement and trying to get everybody together. And then he just kind of got forgotten about outside of the black community for the most part.
Initially, Martin Luther King was playing nice.
Mm-hmm.
They liked that. No, just like you just said, if you're not rocking the boat too much, then they'll deal with you.
Right.
We don't have to get rid of you in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to Martin Luther King's later speeches, he started to realize.
Yep. He's like, forget this. Like, y'all come together. It's all of us.
He tried to start doing stuff with the banks.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to take a whole nother approach. He started meeting with Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, no, we can't have this shit.
So you
We
you
need
think
the
that was
I Have a
government
Dream
as well?
Martin to live on. And
So
kill
that was the
this guy.
government as well
Oh,
through.
I mean,
1000%.
I think it's been
who was
proven
it,
that
James Earl Ray was
he
that?
had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I think that it's proven that there are a few. Again, you can conspiracy or not, but if you do enough research, it to me looks pretty obvious
J.
that
Edgar
the
Hoover.
government killed Martin Luther King.
J. Edgar Hoover was the most despicable person in our
He was
from
the head of
a
the
black
FBI.
perspective.
Yeah,
right?
he was
He's head
at
of
that
FBI.
time.
He was
Yeah.
a pretty savage dude.
J. Edgar Hoover coined the Black Panthers as the biggest threat
Mm-hmm.
to America.
Yep.
Where we have a ton of threats going on outside of the country, and you coin these people as the biggest threat to America. So you have now the right to do whatever you want to do.
Well, and you also have a generation of white people that grew up following that rhetoric and
Right.
teaching their kids that, and then
Right.
trying to get that out of them.
Right.
It takes even longer, and therefore,
Right. Absolutely.
causes even more trouble.
Yeah.
Absolutely. J. Edgar Hoover did so much damage to the black community, to the movement of black people trying to progress, and
I mean, he went from what
Nixon
FBI
gave
to
him the
president.
keys. Nixon gave him the keys.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I again, the thing that frightens me the most, if I was ever to weigh two options, either speak specifically about the black movement, black power, or speak about unity amongst the poor people and bringing everybody together. If I was ever to pick a route that I didn't want to die, I'd pick the black route. I think I genuinely think, just like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, as soon as you get the idea that whoa, no more division, no more segmenting. Like, all of us who are in these situations together, we need to come and fight the 1% that is governing us. As soon as you start making any headway in that direction, I think that's
You're
when
deemed a threat.
Yeah, I think that's when they come to get you.
They gotta eliminate you.
Yeah. Because imagine if say there are 350 million people in America, if you got 349 all channeled against the 1 million that have all the money, like, what would they do? There's nothing they could do. So if they feel like that you have any opportunity to make that, and I try not to be Mr. Conspiracy Theorist.
Well, they mask it as patriotism too.
Of course.
If you go along with it, you are a patriot and you love your country and things of that nature. But it's just people like cheering for the winning team. Really is what it comes down to. So they're on the side of whoever's coming out on top, and normally that's the government and the authority figures, just because they have the most power,
Most clout.
Yeah.
And on top of that, what they did, Reagan's administration did to Los Angeles with crack epidemic, heroin. They flooded the streets trying to support the Nicaraguan war.
Oh, that now we actually have the documents supporting that. Now that shit is
Right,
crazy.
and we know that happened. I had arguments with certain white people like, "Oh, that never happened." It didn't. What are you talking about?
Have you seen American Made with Tom Cruise?
It's like they have
It's based on a
document
true
dumps
story.
now.
The movie Kill the Messenger.
Mhm.
It's a well-known fact
Mhm.
where they clearly allow drugs to be infiltrated and distributed into the black community so they could profit and buy weapons for the Nicaraguan war. It's a known fact. Oliver North, all those guys got pardoned, but how much destruction did that do to black people during that time? So when people are like, why do they not like the police, or why do they not like, it's deeply rooted, man.
Well, and that was during Reagan's time, you said?
Yeah, it was
And
Reagan.
so that was during the anti-drug time.
Yeah.
So they were giving
Correct.
the drugs to the people and then arresting them to put them into the other business, the
And
prison
that's
system.
where we
Yeah.
are today.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean that's what I mean. That was one of my favorite things about Obama towards the end of his presidency was he was trying to commute as many nonviolent drug offender sentences as he could before he got out of office, as many as they would possibly let him, of course. And I doubt that's still happening.
The one
in
thing
terms of them
because I used to
converting sentences.
cover Bureau of Prisons,
Mhm.
and I remember he said that he was doing away with the privatized prison system, but I don't know where that's at today.
It's impossible at this point. It's impossible. It's
I thought he said that they had like one more year left, and then they had to dissolve all the private
he
prisons.
lied. It's too entrenched in our system.
Of course it
Yeah,
is, but I'm
it's
like,
too
well, he
Makes too
said
much
it.
money.
Yeah, no, I think he was just being a politician. I just don't. At this point, the way prisons have been privatized, I just do not see how you do away with it, unless you had some just major.
It needs to be done away with.
Oh, absolutely. But there's too many
Yeah.
incentives to
Right.
keep it going. There's just too much money to be made.
I mean, one of the maybe the only thing you can get behind Trump on is his stance on the prison reform. It looks like they've made some traction
yeah.
from that standpoint. So I mean,
His foreign policy too, and I mean, like I spoke about before, the unemployment rate hasn't been this low in a long time. So, and I'm not saying I
that
agree
has
with.
to do a lot with what Barack had laid.
Yeah,
But
I
then-
was-
Foundation
we didn't
for.
pull up those stats at the time. I don't think.
Okay,
but I
but
had some.
but then
some numbers.
if we're gonna hold presidents to that criteria, then we can say everything Obama did was due to the president before him, and everything the president before him did, it was due to the.
because the things that Obama was accomplished for happened in his second term. These things are happening for Trump within his first year too. There's no way you can make that type of impact.
I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily saying that 100% of it is him. Nor am I an economist, and I'm not trying to say I know everything. But if I'm making a leap here, that if the unemployment rate had been similar under Obama, that we would have accredited, which we did, directly to him.
It started to drop towards the end.
Yeah, it did. And so, and I'm saying that, do I agree with Trump as a human being? I'm not making that case whatsoever. But what I can do is I can separate certain things from certain things. Because, if everybody held me to my worst moments in life, bruh, I'd never make it anywhere, right? So I'm saying that there are some things that Trump has done moderately well, but there are also a lot of things that he's done terribly as well. So I just try to separate those two and say, okay, if I was looking at this from a purely objective standpoint, what can I attribute to him that he has done well? I try not to vilify somebody completely. And again, this does not mean I am making a stance for Trump as a whole,
Right.
that I am a Republican, whatever. I'm just
Right.
saying I just simply said, okay, everybody has said he's the worst president in history. He's done all these things. Is there anything that we can attribute to him that he has done well? If so, what is it and why?
I'm not totally against Donald Trump. I feel like nothing catastrophic has happened like I initially thought.
Like a lot of people thought.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like some of the things that he says, he's trying to speak to a certain base of people. I don't even know if he fully agrees with these things.
Right.
He just
knows
wants.
what he needs to do to win.
He's
And
a
it's-
salesman.
Yes.
To galvanize, right. He needs to galvanize this certain group of people. But a lot of those people he can't relate to at all, but he's a salesman.
Right.
And I feel like some of the things I somewhat agree with, but it's about your approach
Oh, of course. That
of
matters.
how you do it.
That matters, definitely.
And the main thing is he's divided the country, and that's not what a president's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I try to think about why, because, you know, there's a large segment of the population, and try not to get too much into this. I'll just make this point real quick, that there's a large segment of the population who voted for Obama 2 terms in a row and then voted for Trump, right? So Trump is not just galvanizing people who are racist, or it's not just racists who are supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who we clapped for when they voted for Obama, who those same people turned around and voted for Trump. So what caused that? And I think that's the part of Trump we're not willing to look at or address for the most part, you know?
Yeah, I guess some people just wanted a celebrity as a president, I guess. I don't know.
And also...
But I think it's also that, like we were saying earlier, the group mentality. Maybe people just gravitated towards the other side because, okay, this side was in power for this long. Now we know this side's going to be in power. So guess what? We're on this side.
Sure.
We're also all 12 years older. No, excuse me, 8. Jeez. Oh, damn it. He could have had 3 terms. That would have been better. But I found these numbers the other day. It's just economy stuff for first 2 years of Trump versus first 2 years of Obama. And it's one of our favorite websites, The Root.
Yep.
But this is just like Dow Jones versus Obama versus Trump. And it actually says Obama, you know, had the economy, the Dow Jones rose 42% during his first 741 days, while it only rose 28% for Trump's 741. But that also could mean it was, I believe Obama took over during a quite tumultuous time in our economy from Bush, so it had quite a bit to rise because we were in a recession at the time. And then, how the fuck do you read unemployment rate? How does that work? This is like unemployment rate in Obama first 2 years plus 1.3 points.
So the employment rate in his whatever they do a poor job of mentioning during what time period this is.
It's his first 2 years.
First 2 years.
Yeah, that's just comparing the first 2 years of both of them.
So basically, what that's saying is that unemployment rate rose 1.3%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so during Trump, it's actually
gone
down.
Unemployment has gone down,
but by less than 1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does say black unemployment has fallen 1.1% during Trump's first 2 years, and it rose
during Obama's. Yeah.
I think there's an untold story too, because a lot of people who are still unemployed, they just can't claim unemployment.
Very true.
So I think that a lot of people are still hurting, but the only way you can gauge the rate is based on people filing for unemployment.
Yeah, because it doesn't take into account the people who have given up. So it only takes into account the people who are continuously looking for employment and saying, I am unemployed. But the people who have just given up and are sitting on the couch and just saying, fuck it, do not get counted into that number.
Or they decide to sell drugs, whatever the case.
Yeah, which is a form of employment.
Indeed.
You can't put that on the books. So.
Yeah, you cannot.
I just went to the bathroom. Y'all is that the squatty potty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the squatty potty? I've been thinking about getting one.
It works very well.
It works wonders.
I'm getting it tomorrow.
Look, when I went
Bed Bath and Beyond, here
they
I come.
have them.
That's where I heard they. That's where I heard they were at.
I remember seeing the commercial back when they first came out, and they had a unicorn taking a shit. And like
there's a commercial.
It was on YouTube. Yeah,
I saw it on Shark Tank. They got a commercial for the squatty potty.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was at least like a year or two ago, and it was a unicorn using it basically, and they used it as like rainbow colored shit for like, this is basically to make it not not
all the kids
crude for everyone. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell y'all like this. This is gonna get mad personal, but when I went to Africa, right, you don't have toilets, so you got to go to outhouses, and that's how you got to take.
That's how it was in the South. Yeah, that's how it was in the South.
And bruh, best shit you ever take in your life.
What?
Like by far.
Why?
Because you're in the natural position to take a shit, so you don't need to push.
Oh, an outhouse has still got a seat. It's
it's
like a porta potty.
Well, not what do you call them then? What do you call it?
A hole in the ground?
A hole. I thought that's what you call an outhouse.
So you're saying you're taking a squat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Then then it means something different.
That's not an outhouse.
Oh,
outhouse was like a porta potty.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry. Then
I
misspoke. No. I'm talking about a ground 3 inches in diameter. Your aim got to be money, bruh. So like, nah, but that's supposed to be the most natural way that you're supposed to use the bathroom. And I mean, just real facts, it works.
Yeah, there you
It
go.
works. That's a good segue.
Shout out to the Squatty Potty. If you need
Hey,
a podcast
getting
to advertise
endorsement.
on, we're right here.
Hey,
Right here.
remember Joe Rogan? His first sponsor was Fleshlights.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
yeah,
take
he
any
did that.
sponsor, bro. Fleshlight, if you want to highlight your boy.
Not
I
paid
got
for
you.
by Squatty Potty.
Y'all not gonna believe me, but just today,
Stop.
I
Stop.
used the basketball.
I thought you was about to say a fleshlight.
No. I used the basketball
Uh-huh.
as my squatty potty. So I need to go get me one.
in hotel rooms, I've used like the little trash can they have. You just turn it upside down. It's like a stool. Works
So,
out,
I don't
man.
know why I'm imagining now somebody just actually squatting on top of the actual toilet itself. Just standing on the toilet
That
seat.
might be my next trick, man. Save me some money. We'll see how it works.
Oh my god, that's the funniest image I've ever had in my life.
Trying it tomorrow.
Yo, just Terrence on
Oh
top
my
of the toilet. Oh fuck.
That was good.
That was a good one, bro. Oh, whew. I needed that one in my life. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, so everybody go out and get your squatty potties
I
when you
bet
get
you
a
I ain't
chance.
come to this podcast learning that thinking you
Nope.
learn how to take a shit.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh,
There's levels to this shit.
there's levels to this
That's
shit.
a double entendre. That's a that's
That's a
I
couple.
don't even think that's I can't you
Okay,
can't say
so
that
that's
could be
triple.
a triple
It's
entendre.
more than
right
that. It's
there.
more than that, bro.
Because also the toilet has
more than
levels, but also the squatty potty has levels.
And then the thing has
And levels to this
Yeah.
shit. Can I get a fucking verse on something?
Hey, yo.
Throw the beat on.
Bro, I have
haven't figured
I'm
it
not
out.
gonna lie, I have fantasized about halfway through a podcast one day, you just throwing out a beat
Hey, you just
and I just
freestyle?
spit some like fire shit,
I
bro.
mean, I can.
Do not do that.
You want me to put it on right now?
I can't.
I'm gonna do it one day. It'll just pop up and you won't even know.
And
it.
bro, you know what? That's probably what's gonna take. I need it to just come out of left field.
That's why you think you're gonna get
And
the
then I'ma
skills
just-
Hold
to
on.
do
What is
it.
this? What is this racist shit here?
T'Challa's
T'Challa's cousin? T'Challa from the Black Panther? What the fuck is this?
This is from the root. This is a Black Run website actually.
Okay, now it's acceptable.
Yeah, Michael Harriet, bro.
Yeah.
This guy's
No, but
he's
they
actually pretty funny.
my sister actually sent me this the other day. These scientists photographed this black leopard for the first time in 100 years. We have so much technology they couldn't photograph this one cat.
Tell me that's not the most
For
beautiful
100
looking
years.
thing
That
you've
motherfucker
ever
looks
seen,
like a
bro.
monster.
Tell me that's not the most beautiful thing, dude.
Not photographed
In a
since
good way.
Betty White
Yeah.
was a spry young teenager in 1909.
Spry. Yeah, I bet what. All right, no, you know what? I'm gonna
Wow.
stop.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna even say that joke. Bro. I'm not even gonna get into that shit. But yeah, man. So
A lot of Black Panther mentions on this show.
yeah,
You mentioned
How about that?
That's
Double entendre.
levels to it. Levels to it.
so about this Kareem Hunt thing, it's a bit of a segue,
All right.
but I feel like this is a good point to jump into that thing.
Sure.
What are y'all thoughts about Kareem Hunt getting reinstated to the Browns?
I'm completely fine with
Okay.
it. But I would also say that when we first talked about it a couple episodes ago, I hadn't seen the video at all.
Mhm.
And I think I mentioned that when we
You did.
talked about it.
You
but
did. Thoughts?
well, I can get into that in a minute. I'll
Okay,
let Terrence
okay.
say what he thinks about him getting back into the NFL. But yeah, I just wanted to say I got some more info now.
Okay.
I'm perfectly fine with it. I have a deeper conversation I'd like to get into about it, but
Mhm.
I'm fine with him being employed again.
Mhm.
Young man made a mistake, most likely intoxicated. He deserves another chance.
I agree. I mean, this country
Complete
is founded
agreement.
on second chances, so I completely agree. So I guess we can do a round table and start with Andrew and like, what are your thoughts about the video?
I definitely thought that, just based on how everyone reacted, that
Mhm.
was going to be much worse than what I ended up seeing,
Mhm.
which was basically him giving her a slight shove to the ground and then not even that hard of a kind of kick to the ass to say, in my eyes, you don't do that.
Yeah, or
basically.
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but I mean that's not something you do to someone. You don't say that to someone. But it seems like people were outraged by it, and the Chiefs probably reacted a little too swiftly because they didn't want the blowback from. I don't know. Maybe they thought about it as the Ray Rice situation.
Yeah.
Again, I saw that recently on. It was some show was showing both the incidents back to back. Both
totally
videos.
different.
Yes, completely.
So
they are.
different.
I mean, not even close.
So different.
Not even close. And
So
not even close is the relationship between the two people and how the words that one woman could say could affect you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Terrence.
What you just said right there just struck a chord in me, just because I was watching Killer Mike early on. He was on Vlad TV, and he brought up Emmett Till, and a white woman, she has the ability to get a black man killed based on what she says. So that just struck a chord. I didn't mean to go there, but that girl was there to party.
Of course.
She knew she was around some money, and most likely they disrespected her.
Oh, I'm a dude.
I
know how that shit goes.
I'm right. I know exactly.
I know how that shit goes, bro.
Yeah, they probably said something to her
Right.
that she didn't like, and she was like, "Oh well, this is what I'm gonna do."
Right.
Give me 2 more beers, I'm gonna
What
disrespect
happened
all
was
our women podcasters.
They invited her back to the apartment, which his girlfriend was there. A lot of people may not understand. He wasn't
Didn't know
there. He
Didn't know
wasn't.
that
He
either.
wasn't involved in actually trying to pursue those girls. It was the homies. His girl was there. So, if the other girl that's in the scene, that's his girl.
Oh shit! I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Trying to, I guess, diffuse it in some way. Honestly, the girl should have been riding. He shouldn't have had to even touch
Yeah,
her.
right.
Right.
She could have.
Right. She
She should have handled
Bruh.
a
that.
swift uppercut, and it could have been
Straight
over.
like that. My girl wouldn't even
Right.
hesitate. Straight
Exactly.
Like
It shouldn't have even have been him getting too much involved, but most likely they brought her back to the hotel at a late hour. Most guys expect you going to perform in a certain manner.
that. Sure.
She probably didn't expect that from her naiveness. Maybe that's not the right thing to say. But most guys, if you don't understand, for the females that are listening, if you come to somebody's apartment or hotel or home at 2 in the morning,
Oh my God!
I want ass.
they're expecting a certain act.
I want the cheeks.
I've had the. I just want to talk.
Yeah.
Let's watch this whole 2.5 hour movie at 3 a.m.
That's not what the male is expecting.
Not at all.
So I can see how that conflict would start and take
Yeah.
place.
Of course.
And sometimes in your you feel disrespected, so now you want to get revenge. What you don't understand is you could be affecting someone's life going forward based on what you say, based on the difference in demographic. They can take it to another level. So you got to be careful with that. And in that situation, I don't think she went too far. But you mentioning what you mentioned just brought the Emmett Till thing to mind.
I mean it in two ways. Well, one, Ray Rice was with his wife, correct, at the time, and that whole relationship in itself means way more than some random girl off the street.
Right.
And we also, do we know what she said to him in the elevator? Was there anything even said? I don't even remember.
Apparently there was a derogatory statement made.
But yeah, and I mean,
know.
Ray and I have talked about this before. I mean, the words of a woman, that's kind of her weapon.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
it can hurt
Exactly.
very much so, especially coming from someone more close to you.
Somebody you
Right.
love.
So it could be
Right.
that situation, but in the same way, it's the white versus black thing.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the white girl in the Kareem Hunt situation was probably using it as, you know, one, drunk, I would assume, but two,
absolutely.
in the way of, I'm going to say the most disrespectful possible thing because this will hurt them.
Right.
This will hurt them, and that
Right.
as we learn that as not we as white people, but we as people learn that as children too. If someone says something to you, you say something more higher up, better than them, or more hurtful than them when you're going back and forth like that. So that's some people go to the most extreme when they get in that situation.
See, if you call me a nigga, that's not extreme to me. That's easy. I've had this conversation recently with people.
But to someone that can't say it, that is one of the most extreme things they can say.
Yeah.
In their
that's
mind.
What they
in
think.
their
In their
mind. Yes, that's why she's doing it, because she wants to get under someone's skin.
And she doesn't know anybody.
And it's
that's when I know that's what you're trying to get out of. You're trying to get a certain reaction.
It's the intent.
And I'm not going to give it to you.
Correct.
It's the intent.
Now, if you get creative and you call me a porch monkey or some shit like that, I might lose
an old school slur. An old school slur.
If you get creative.
You know what my favorite black term is? Darky. That is my favorite one. When it's the most hurtful to me for some reason, but it's also the funniest one to me. When somebody goes, "Oh, darky," I'm like, "Nigga, that's actually pretty good. That's well done."
There was something Aziz Ansari said in one of his specials, and he said he was looking up weird slurs, and I apologize to the group. It's a very old one that he found, and I'm just quoting him, but he said. Something like painted with the tar brush or something was the one he used from like a long that was one from like a long time ago.
I have
painted with the tar brush.
Never heard
like,
that one.
Whoa, that's super. Well, he was going through a book. Of different ones. He was kind of listing off different ones that he found, but I was like, wow, that's very.
If you call me a porch monkey, if you call me a coon. I'll probably smack you in your fucking mouth. If you call me a nigga, I can deal with
it. See, for me, it's all about intent, right? Because it's, and I use the analogy, it's just like when we fucking around in here, and I'm like, yo, Andrew, man, fuck you for that. Or if I was like, yo, Andrew, fuck you. I could say the exact same thing, and your reaction would be 100% predicated on what my intent was with that statement. Right. So when somebody calls me a nigga, if a white dude is like, what's up, my nigga? And it's on accident, and he's like, oh, shit, bro, I don't give a fuck, right? Dude, we say it in our speech, in our songs, 1,000 times a day. For me to not think you're going to slip up and say it is irrational of me, right? So, but if you come up and say you fucking nigga, you can say anything in place of that word at that point. I'm going to still react the same way because of what your intent is.
Quick story to your point. It's on South Street in Philadelphia, getting a cheesesteak. And I ordered my cheesesteak, but they kept calling somebody's name. Like, hey, your cheesesteak is ready. It's up. Nobody was responding. So I was playing around like, oh, that's mine. That's mine. And they give me the cheesesteak initially, and they snatch it back. Like, no, you didn't order this. White dude comes out of nowhere and says, nah, that's his. That's his. He ordered it. That nigga ordered that shit. And I was like,
yeah, this nigga did order.
Mind you, we're about 10 deep. I'm out there like 10 deep. Everybody is like, what did he say? Yeah. Like, they ready to get at him. And I was like, well, first of all, he tries to diffuse it. Nah, it's cool. I'm from Brooklyn. That's what he said.
Oh, that makes it better.
He said, nah, it's cool. I'm from Brooklyn.
I know a black guy. It's okay. He likes to say
But to me, I was like, they wanted to get at him and they wanted to try to. I'm like, let it slide. Like, he didn't mean it in a derogatory way. And I have people I know that were white, grew up in my community was mostly black, but we had, white people in the community, obviously. But it was majority black, and they had their group of black friends where they were cool. They allowed them to say the N-word within their circle. Yeah. And that's up to them. Yeah. If that's what you want to do with your group of people, you don't want to allow him to say that.
Don't extrapolate that to the larger group. But
of course. Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure they went out to college, and you can't just say that shit. Because you're out of your circle now. Yeah. So if you want to allow your white friend to say that within your circle, that's your choice. That's up to you to do that.
It's also your responsibility to educate him on that.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm allowing you to say this, but understand when you go outside of these walls that not everybody who looks like me is going to be okay with you saying that word as well.
And I mean, I think just based on back to the Kareem Hunt thing, based on what she said to him, he could have reacted in a way worse way, and people would have still thought a lot of people would have still thought he was justified in his action based on what she did. And luckily there was, from what I saw in the video, one of his friends was there, I guess, holding him back a little bit. But he didn't seem to be super malicious about it and wanting to attack this woman.
If it wasn't for the kick in the end, he would have
got away with it. Yeah,
I saw that.
Okay.
I watched it multiple times after I finally saw it, and I was just like, it just seems to me like he was giving her like a. I mean, I get it. Don't physically strike another human ever for any reason. I mean, most of the time you don't want to harm somebody, but. That was just like, don't do it again.
But what we saw also was she struck him first.
Yep.
She struck him first. If I'm a 20-something-year-old, early 20s, and you strike me and I'm drunk,
I black out. I black out.
Yep.
I black out, bro.
We've talked about it before on this as well. Just, you can't expect violence not to be returned with violence in some way. Who was it? Bill Burr.
Bill Burr.
Yeah, he was saying, it's not okay to hit women, but if you walk in and your wife has drowned 2 of your kids and she's working on the third, is it okay to hit a woman then?
Right.
And it's like there's always situations where it doesn't matter who you are, that there could be a physical altercation, and you need to know who you're speaking with and respect everyone in the same type of way. But also there shouldn't be this immediate reaction, just like the video with the kid. There shouldn't be this immediate reaction by the NFL, the Chiefs, anybody. I mean, there was no discussion. It was just immediate. Obviously it happened, and then months later is when the video came out, and it happened immediately. But as soon as they found out, he was gone. Yeah.
There's and again, I guess this gets into a deeper issue between the dynamic between men and women, but it's like we completely remove women of any responsibility, and in terms of like they have their own faculty. Like, you have to understand
everyone's got a brain.
Everybody's an individual, and that when, yes, there is a common understanding for men not to hit women, there's a common understanding for people not to hit people in general. Yep. But you also have to understand that under the right circumstances, that somebody may act differently than you expect, right?
Talk shit, get hit. That's what I always grew up on.
Get hit, right? And so, I just don't like the fact that once a man strikes a woman, we can condemn that issue while simultaneously addressing what the woman did for that to happen. I don't know why we can't do those things at the same time.
I would hope that she wouldn't do it again based on what happened to her.
I would certainly hope so.
Based on getting famous from it, she may do it again.
She's gonna get a check.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's not a lesson learned for her by any means. It's more so for Kareem Hunt to realize that there's cameras everywhere, and you are too much of a celebrity and a professional, I guess, to be caught in those situations.
Well, let me pose this question,
okay,
just to see if these two conversations are in relation.
Okay.
Today we saw Kaepernick in the NFL and Eric Reed. They settled. Do you think Kareem Hunt getting a job had something to do with the NFL saying, let's get rid of this situation, because this is multiple people now doing physical harm to women, drugs, whatever the case may be, and they continue to get jobs. This is the most recent one.
Oh, that's a good one.
We have this blackball collusion case. Let's try to get rid of this.
That's a good one.
Because Kareem Hunt this week just got a job based on clear video of him doing something violent.
And it's like, what's worse, somebody kneeling or somebody putting their hands on a woman? And basically,
it depends on who you are.
Right, exactly. But if the NFL continues down the path they were going, it's basically like they're taking a stance of, if you disrespect the flag in any way, shape, or form, even though it's a peaceful protest, that's more important than a man physically assaulting a woman. Which is, that's good. That I did not think about that. That they could have looked at that and said,
kind of ironic.
Yeah,
this is the week you choose to settle.
That's just what we mentioned earlier. It's a whole timing thing. It's misdirection. You get them looking one way because this story is more relevant or it's more recent.
We can monetize off of Kareem. So let's get the story off
Browns, the Browns who turned their whole season around. They got rid of their coach. They're all
Cinderella story.
I even saw the
GM. Sell that.
The GM that was on Hard Knocks, the guy that always wears a sweatshirt and shorts.
Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy.
Is it the
Greg,
GM? Maybe the owner? I forget.
Oh no
For the
no 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 no
Browns.
no no no! I'm thinking about the defensive coordinator who then turned head coach.
But anyways,
you're
yeah,
talking about
I saw
somebody
him
different. I'm sorry.
talking about Kareem
I
Hunt,
was wrong.
just saying, he made a mistake and we want to give him another chance. And of course, that's great that he's saying that. But at the same time, it's also a huge business decision for them. As it's weird too to think about the question of, all right, so the Browns, do they care as much as other teams do about the view of them from the public perception?
No.
They care more about the winning because they've lost so much in the last 30 years.
They have nothing to lose.
All
No pun intended.
organizations
maybe
care
20
about the
years.
winning. They
Yeah.
all care about the winning.
But because the winning is the business. I mean,
the winning is the business, how
yep,
they can monetize
that's the
and
money.
make money. But when we've seen over and over people do criminal acts and get a job, when we spoke earlier about the Black Panthers and them trying to galvanize people and bringing them together, you have one guy that took a stance peacefully against police brutality, against the destruction of black people.
And that seems more...
And that was more
disruptive.
Yes. Than people hitting women, doing drugs.
Can you imagine? That's weird, right?
Now, I do. I have a question.
It's not weird to me.
Wait, no. I don't think people take the time nor the opportunity to even make that correlation and put it in that type of context.
Right.
Because I can sit here and honestly say that I certainly did not. This whole time I had never connected those two dots until you did that right now.
No,
and I'm
I
like,
didn't either.
I can imagine that anybody who's listening to this is gonna be like, oh shit, that's
obviously that was more of a threat to them as an organization and what they quote unquote stand for, and it shows
we have to get him out of here.
Yeah,
it's no different than how they had to get rid of Fred Hampton.
Yep.
They had to get rid of him.
Yep.
Colin Kaepernick, they had to get rid of him in another way.
Yes, which was blackballing him.
Right.
And as for those that don't know, today or yesterday, the NFL settled with Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick over being blackballed. And normally settling means you lost, but it was also for undisclosed whatever. They didn't really say any of the stuff that went on in the proceedings.
Here's something Kaepernick is going to have to deal with, I'm pretty sure. Is some people are going to condemn him.
I think I know where you're going.
For a money grab. Because if you were truly about this cause, you would have saw it through.
Well, I don't know.
Will bring that up.
Does he have to decide on settling as well? Does it have to be a joint decision like the NFL has to say we're going to settle and he has to agree to settle?
Oh, absolutely. You can't. They can't. Because I mean, think about how many cases would get won if it was all up to the person
both
who
sides
has
to agree.
If it was only up to the person who has something to lose to just say I settle, they have to come to the table.
And unfortunately, it's a non-disclosure thing, so he's never going to be able to say. And
TMZ, we need you.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully that money goes to some sort of, you would think.
We won't know.
Kaepernick, yeah.
We won't know. That's the problem.
But
we don't even know how much it is, or even if it is money. It could be some other type of perk in terms of not interfering in another way in his life that they're already doing. Who knows?
We'll have to see if now we see him getting invited to camps. If we see him getting a job, then we can say, okay.
How many years of his career have they wasted already? At least 2, right?
He got $100 million contract.
Personally,
he's not hurting.
He's not hurting.
No, but in terms of if he wants to play the sport he loves still,
if he wants to play
physically able to do it.
Here's somewhat of a problem I have with Kaepernick. If he wants to play the sport that he loves, why didn't you go to Canada?
Yeah,
that
I guess
new
he
league,
thought
that new
maybe
league
this
that just started
better. Yeah,
it actually looks pretty legit.
They reached out to him.
Oh yeah,
and he rejected it.
Show people you can play.
Exactly. I do somewhat have a problem with that. If
maybe
you want to
anymore.
just play, then why do you want to? Why are you trying to get an NFL job if you can't?
So I think
is he still actively pursuing contracts? Because after
what I know,
2 years of not even getting offers,
he's
you
still
would think
30.
Yeah.
He says he wants to play. He still says he trains to play.
Yeah.
So then why not go to that AAF? American Alliance
something like that.
Football?
Yeah.
Why not do that? Why not go to Canada? Because your jersey sales will be like, they said he didn't want to take that deal from the AAF because they do $250,000 for 3 years. That's non-guaranteed. But you did get the Nike contract.
Yeah.
You can easily work into your contract. I get an X amount of percentage from my jersey sales.
Yeah.
Black people in the culture will buy that shit up.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that?
You might make the Canadian League a little more popular too.
Right.
I think Kaepernick is scared because fundamentally, I do not think he has anything to speak about, and I'm gonna tell you why. Every time Kaepernick was questioned about truly what it is he was standing for and what it is he was actually trying to accomplish, he just sounded uneducated in terms of like, he's like, I'm speaking for police violence and like black people's struggle in America. What specifically are you talking about? Give us some data, give us some economics. He had nothing to substantiate his claims. That was his first fault. Number two is he made the mistake of, given all of this that he was doing, kneeling and protesting, he came out his mouth and said, I didn't vote. Bruh, come on.
I don't put as much. I don't put as much, I guess, weight on voting as others do. Just in terms of actually changing.
So presidential vote, I can understand, but in terms of like your senator, your congressman, your mayors, your state electoral individuals that you can vote that will affect your life the most. Yo, you have no excuses. You got to do that because that's what's going to predict not only your future, but those around you, your kids, ipso facto, right? And when you come out of your mouth and you say you want to promote all these change, but the one sure avenue you have to accomplishing that change, you decide not to pursue, then that makes your point moot, in my point of view.
I feel like some people may have expected too much from him. He had a passion about something.
He started a movement.
He felt the need to stand up for it, and he started a movement.
I agree.
That doesn't mean that he's the most educated.
Exactly. He's allowed to stand up for something and still not be completely educated in every aspect, because he's obviously going to be very removed from it. Not very, but at some point, because he's a very rich person.
But shouldn't you have something to substantiate what you're speaking about?
He definitely has at a time. It took a long time, but there's many different causes that he's donated money to.
He says police violence against black people. Statistically speaking, that is not an issue to be worried about, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because black people are not, first of all, the people who are most killed by police officers. That's number one. And the percentage of black people who are killed in general, and at that by a police officer, not in general, but the percentage of people, black people as a whole, as a percentage of people who are murdered, those who are murdered by police officers is so tiny. It's not even. If this was any other sample size, you wouldn't even speak about it.
Who is the demographic that is most killed by police officers?
White people,
because they are much larger,
right? But even when you control for what's the word, per capita, there's still more white people that are killed than black people.
But you're also,
it just is what it is.
You're saying that he shouldn't be worried about this, but he's a human. I mean, look, you're human. You have worries. Mm-hmm. You have different things that you worry about in your life.
Certainly,
that's just that was his concern at the time, and he. At least from what we saw, he took.
But you should be educated about what you're concerned about.
But it wasn't just him.
Are you saying it's not an issue?
I'm saying that it's. Yeah, I'm saying it's not an issue. I'm saying it's not an issue because if there were as many videos posted of white people getting killed by white police officers as there were black people getting killed by white police officers, the number would be so much greater.
We're talking about unarmed black people,
unarmed white people too. I'm telling you, look at the data, man. It does not support.
He's not. I don't think that. I think we're kind of missing the point. He's not arguing for one group gets killed over another group or disproportionately to another group. He's just saying that I believe he's half black, right?
Yes.
So my people are being killed by police officers in a very public manner, in a very reckless manner, and cops are not being held responsible for that. That is something that needs to change, whether it's on a huge level or it's a minute level. It's still something that people need to be worried about.
But I think he did pinpoint the African American community, but you're right. I saw something recently where a white man was killed in front of his family unarmed.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't know if it's a lot. I'm not going to.
But I'm just saying that we're allowed to be, especially based on our different communities, we're allowed to be specific in what we actually care about. You know, what's dear and near to our hearts, basically.
Right, but it has to be rational and substantiated. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if I was worried about aliens, you would call me irrational. And that could be as relevant to me as I want it to be.
Are black people killed by police?
Yes.
Okay, I believe that's what he's...
Are unarmed black people.
Yeah, I believe that's what he was
police.
fighting for. It's not that he's saying this group is more than this group.
But here's the thing, just like you spoke about earlier, if his issue is to make progress for the black community as a whole, that is not the issue to stand by, because when you look at the actual statistics, they do not support the thesis that he's trying to push. So you can talk about like single parent homes within the black community. Now that's an issue we can all get behind, and the stats are there to prove it. But when you start saying that more black people are killed by police than any other race, then you start, that's why people
who
can't
said
get
that?
behind
I don't
you.
think
Did he
ever
say
said
that?
that?
Yeah.
I don't think he ever said that.
He's saying that black people are being targeted by the police. Statistically, they're not.
I don't think it's a targeted thing. I think it's more so
if they're not being
they're
targeted,
not trained, and they have a fear, so they
Of people that are
instantly
different than
react,
them, and
right.
there's more white
They
cops than
instantly
black cops.
react and shoot to kill,
But
rather
not
than
just for
to unarm and disman a person. Shoot to kill.
Okay, so now
this man doesn't deserve to die for whatever he may have done.
okay, so if Colin Kaepernick is talking about police killing innocent people in general, I think more people would have supported him. But what Kaepernick did was talk about police killing innocent black men as if that was the prevailing issue when it was not.
Right.
That is the only thing.
Do you think
just
white
wasn't.
people think there's an issue with police killing them? Do you think they think that's an issue?
It depends.
Absolutely not.
It depends if
Absolutely not.
I think it depends if you have been affected by it, just like it depends with black people.
I haven't been affected by it, and I've been affected by it.
Right, because you are being presented with a narrative by the media at large. Why does it look? You know about all the white people that are innocent, white, unarmed, Asian, Hispanic, unarmed individuals who are killed by police officers.
I don't know.
Why don't they come up?
I don't know about that.
I mean,
I don't know if that happens in droves. Of course, I'm sure it happens. But I think there was a statistic last year. No white person was killed by another white cop all last year. That's a stat. That there was no unarmed white person killed by a white officer. There was also no white person killed by a black officer all last year. Clearly, there's an issue. This isn't just something that people. If this was what you're saying is true, people would have easily put this stat out there and refuted whatever he has to say. But they can't refute it because it's a real thing.
I don't, like I said, I don't think I know that he's specifically advocating for black people, unarmed black people that are murdered or killed by cops for in whatever situation it is. But I don't think it's in a way that, like you're saying, I know there are people that are saying what you're saying, that are saying that black people are killed in disproportionate amounts, but they're not. I don't think they're looking at all the correct statistics there. But I don't think Kaepernick, as you said, he doesn't have those statistics, so he's not saying those things because he doesn't. He's more in general just saying this is a social issue that needs to change in our society, and that's what he stood up for.
We don't know
how many other people knelt with him because of that, and all of their reasons, I'm sure, vary. Not just everyone's only talking about one thing within police brutality, but all America in general, I would assume.
We don't know what goes on in a state by state basis. It's too hard to track that. What we can go off of is the data that we're presented.
Okay.
And what we know is that young white boy that killed those people in South Carolina in the church was taken alive. We know he was also taken to Burger King before they took him to the precinct.
Really?
Yeah. They took him to
Yeah,
Burger
they took him to Burger King, got him some food before they took him in. We also know the guy in Colorado that shut up the movie theater was taken alive.
Yep.
Yeah,
almost all of these mass shooters are
taken alive
unless they kill themselves.
Right.
And they're all white men.
Right.
Yeah.
All of them.
And when you see that, and then you see unarmed black men continuously to be murdered based on a perception, then you realize that the value of a black life is viewed differently.
So I agree with you that police lack fundamental training in how to deal with individuals of any community who have mental health issues, because cops are treated as mental health practitioners even though they shouldn't be, because that's not in their job description. So they get unfair burdens placed at their hands, and it makes them very tough to do their jobs. So they do overreact, especially when they're dealing with a person who has mental health issues. So cops in general, regardless of what demographic they're dealing with, need to be trained better.
Where does mental health come into this?
Because what I'm saying is this, that cops need better training in general. And a lot of the people that I think they end up, again, I'd have to look at the statistics more closely, but I believe what has been stated, that a lot of the individuals that they get called out for happen to be individuals with mental health issues, and then they end up killing those same individuals, which is unfortunate. So yes, cops do kill unarmed people of every race, and it's wrong. I'm not advocating that. It's okay for this. And I would say, look, even if it does turn out that they happen to kill more black people per capita than white or Hispanic, it is not a significant enough number to make it the main issue that should lead a cause. That's all I'm saying.
No, it should, because what I mentioned earlier with Fred Hampton and what they did, what I mentioned earlier with Ronald Reagan and his administration, pretty much giving the police the right to violate black people.
They certainly did.
And so I say it's deep rooted.
Yeah.
So these things don't just go away. And when people talk about the black community's issue with law enforcement, it's deep rooted. It's been going on for a long time. And these things need to be addressed. The Panthers started to protect the community from the police because of all the things. You've heard about the LAPD?
Of course.
And how they treat black people?
Of course.
Whether it's a murder or not.
Of course. Of course.
How they were treated for years. All of these things, they've been given a license to kill. They've been given a license to violate. Yeah. And it's deeply rooted, and it has to be addressed. So whether we're talking about what we see on Instagram today and what we don't see on Instagram today, it's deeply rooted where black people don't feel they can trust the police. Black people, the whole snitching shit comes from this. Because if you're going to work with the police, you're working against the people that have been violating us for years.
And but there's no reason for that trust to be there. We even talked about in the Reagan era with distributing the drugs and then arresting for the drugs they distributed. I mean, there's always going to be pitfalls and traps.
But here's what happens with the no snitching thing. Like, I understand where it's rooted
but I'm not saying I agree.
Yeah, I was going to say because
where it comes from.
Right. Yeah. I understand where certain things come from, but at what point do you start saying that was in the past, this is today, we have to do something different?
Because it's not in the past.
But look, this whole no snitching thing, that is prevalent, pervasive amongst the black community, and what that does is it enables murderers to be left in communities, and that is not an okay thing. Like,
but it comes a point where, and I'm just saying what the psychology behind it is, you got to pick a side, whether it's always right or wrong.
Yeah.
You have to pick a side. The problem with snitching is amongst thieves. It ain't about civilians. If you ain't doing wrong, if you're not committing crimes, snitching should not apply to you.
Right.
It got too out of control with the rap music in certain movies.
Yeah, certainly.
Where the average civilian felt like, if my grandmother just got robbed,
I ain't snitching.
I ain't saying nothing, which is ridiculous. If your grandmother got robbed and you know who it was, you was a sucker for not telling people to bring that man to justice.
Right.
But it got too out of control. Snitching is supposed to be amongst gangsters, amongst thieves.
Right.
And you committed to a lifestyle, you got to take the fall if something happens to you.
Yeah.
But it got out of control, and a lot of it is because it's deeply rooted from what happened throughout the years.
Right. And let me revise my statement to make very clear that I am not saying that police killing of any demographic, of any race, under any circumstances, especially an unarmed individual, is justified in any case. And it does happen to communities of color, to white people. It happens to everybody. So in any capacity that it happens, it is wrong, and something should be done about that. I'm trying to definitely advocate that. But what I am saying is that there are more pervasive issues within the black community than kneeling for that. Kneel for the fact that, fathers should be at home with their kids. Kneel for that.
That's a personal decision. We're talking about the people that's supposed to serve.
That's a community. That's a
But we're
community.
talking about
Yeah,
people
but
that's
it's
serve and
individual
protection.
relationships. You can't. I mean,
You
you
can't
can't know
control
everybody's
that.
ins and outs of their relationships. How that works.
Promote it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, you promote good fatherhood, yes, but it's not something to kneel for at a
But
football
it is
game.
affecting your community more than police killing people is. So why not
affecting
advocate that?
Affecting them how?
Look, fatherless homes, the black community, what we've already spoken about this several times, but I will reiterate that black children are born out of wedlock at one of the highest rates in the world. It is something almost to the effect of 70%. That is having a profound effect on our community.
That's a different conversation.
It's
man.
not.
That's trying to change the narrative.
No. I'm not trying to change the narrative. What I am saying is that has a significantly greater impact on the outcomes of young black men and women, more so than police killing a very tiny segment of the population.
Okay,
now,
you're saying
right.
that Kaepernick needs to have different values. He needs to value these views and not his.
I'm
views.
not saying to value.
That is what you're saying.
No. I'm saying pick smarter views that.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
I'm not
this
saying,
is what you value, not what he values. But this is his issue that he's going after.
But go after if you're okay. What is his end goal? To help the black community as much as he can. So if there is an issue out there that can do more, substantially affect your community more so than the current issue that you're advocating for, why not advocate for that one? If we already have the evidence.
I'm not paying the father that left his family tax. I'm not paying his salary. Black people are paying these people's salary, protect and serve, and they're not doing that. What they're doing is violating. That's the difference.
But they're not perfect individuals, and you cannot ask for perfection. And this is what I'm saying. Again, I know you're making it sound like I'm justifying, but they are killing people from every segment of the population. They're killing everybody.
We just had the stat up. Black people are killed by police 3 times more than any other population. It's right there for you.
Based on the population density of each group, yeah.
Bruh.
So it's right there for you. This has been
going
on for years.
I literally
Black
just saw
people
that
been
Native
targeted.
Americans were killed more than any other population.
Yeah, but this is black versus white. This is not Native American. And yeah,
Native Americans are not killed more than black people.
So Native Americans are killed proportionate to their numbers in the United States more than any other group. But that
by
also
police.
yes,
Yeah.
But they also joined the military in World War II more than any demographic. Based on their numbers, based on the total number of their population,
I just recently saw
not based on their total numbers.
On the Breakfast Club, and I need to watch it. I saw a clip. There was a Native American group on the Breakfast Club, Charlemagne and all of them, where they were saying that their women are being abducted,
Really,
and forced into human trafficking at a high rate that people aren't talking about. So I can see that being an issue, being on the reservation.
Nobody talks about the Native American community, and again,
and you're a Redskins fan, right?
I'm not. We've already talked about this. I'm no longer a Redskins fan. I've already disowned them. So before this, but what I'm trying to say, I don't want to play the victim Olympics. I'm trying to say that this police killing innocent people is bad every single way you cut it. I cannot stress that enough.
Are you saying it's not worse for one group more than another?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
So statistically, may there be a variable that is slightly differential between the groups? Absolutely. But what I'm saying in general is the statistical significance of cops killing black people enough for it to be one of the primary causes that black people are using as an issue to push to the forefront. I'm saying that it's not. I'm saying that there are more relevant issues to speak about, more so than black people killing. Right. I mean, police killing black people.
You can't control what people do in their household.
Exactly.
But you can't control what people do in their household.
Can I put it in these granular terms?
Okay.
In terms of police doing wrong things,
sure.
Isn't it really high up there on the list?
Police doing wrong things?
In terms of police corruption, police violence against innocent people, isn't it very high up there on the list of important things?
Let me hash that out. Are you saying that there are more bad cops doing bad things than there are good cops doing good things? Because if that's the point you're trying to make, I'm saying no. That most of the cops are good and most of the cops are doing things. Is there a population of bad cops that are doing bad things? Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Right. What I'm saying is you are afraid of what you don't understand. And a lot of white cops view black people and they automatically view that as a threat, and there's a fear there based on not understanding. You have people policing our communities that are not from the community, and they say a guy that, okay, he's a kid, but he's big, he's unarmed. I'm talking about Mike Brown.
Yeah.
He said he feared for his life. How do you fear for your life? You just weren't trained to be able to handle this man,
Right.
this boy, because you're a grown man. You're about 15 years older than him,
Right.
and you go ahead and murder him. Because you said you feared for your life. He had no weapon on him.
Was there a struggle for the officer's weapon? Look, man. Look.
That's what they. Are you serious? That's
No,
what you.
I'm
that's
asking,
what they want you to believe.
I'm not justifying. Look.
That's what they want you to believe.
It's not about what they want me to believe. I'm going off of the facts of the case. If you're a police officer and somebody's going for your gun and your life is on the line, fuck being a police officer. If you're a regular dude,
what we know is he clearly got handle of his weapon, right?
Yeah.
So that means now you got to kill him. If you got handle of your weapon, now you should have a baton. You should have a taser.
Yeah.
Does that man deserve to die?
No. And look, I'm not trying to argue for bad cops that kill innocent young black men recklessly. I'm not trying to make a case for those people. Are there those white cops that recklessly kill innocent young unarmed black men for no reason because they're racist as fuck and have nothing better to do on a fucking Tuesday afternoon? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I'm making the case to you that most white cops that end up killing unarmed black men are not doing it for racist purposes. And they're not doing it because there's this grand scheme to kill young black men. They're doing it because they're either afraid for their life or it's bad training.
Why are they afraid for their life? Because they don't understand.
Because
they have a natural fear of black men.
No, because they're cops and they're in extremely dangerous situations and environments. Because they kill innocent people of every other race as well because of that same factor.
No.
Being a policeman in any community is one of the hardest jobs you can do. Hey, Terrence, how do you know who's a murderer and who's not? Do you have a book to figure that out?
I think
nobody does.
I think you're correct in that. That's going to be a very stressful job, and if you've seen one insane, crazy shootout, I'm sure that a lot of the calls that you get you might think, okay, this could happen again, or something I've seen on TV about cops. Exactly,
there's a lack of training.
Exactly, and there should be there. And hey, the
way they ran up on
got
Tamir
some
Rice,
stats right here.
And came right up on Tamir Rice,
reckless,
and just shot him.
Unjustified.
Why didn't
Absolutely.
you have a certain distance
Absolutely.
where if you really felt he had a weapon, you could easily open the doors up, pull the guns out, and say, "Throw your hands up." They
reckless.
got right out the car and shot him.
Yes, reckless, unjustified, completely fucked up. Absolutely.
This stat here is
absolutely.
Answer me this question, right? If
yes.
Tamir Rice was white, would they have done that?
I can't answer that question, but I
you
will.
Can answer that.
No. Let me tell you why.
They probably thought he was a kid playing with a BB gun like he was.
Let me tell you why. No, but
exactly.
Look, let me ask you this: have there been innocent white men, white boys of that age killed by the police officer who are unarmed? Have there?
Show me the tape.
Yes, they
Show
have.
me the tape.
Look, we gotta go. We gotta go pull up killings of.
All right, look. If we can go by stats, and
Okay.
you're saying that black people are not more disproportionately killed than white people,
They might be. I'll revise that.
in many ways. This says black people were 25% of those killed in 2017 by cops, but being only 13% of the population.
Okay.
We talked about this earlier. I mean, there's obviously a lot more white people in the United States than black.
Mm-hmm.
This is just based on, where you're more likely
Oklahoma
to lose your
Georgia.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just in it. Well, Atlanta's different. Atlanta's like separate from the rest of Georgia. Nigga central.
This stat to the right is kind of insane. There's 13 of the 100 largest U.S. city police departments kill black men at higher rates than the U.S. murder rate, the whole murder rate for that city.
Look at that.
Reno being one of them.
It's right there for you in black and white.
yeah, I mean, look, I
understand that seemingly you want to play devil's advocate here.
Well, it's not necessarily okay. Yeah, it's of course.
And there's all types of situations
too.
where that what you're saying could be correct, and many different things could be correct. But I think what Terrence and I are both saying is that with Kaepernick, he's focused on his thing. This is his thing, and that's what he's doing. But there's other things affecting black communities that are maybe more important than this in your eyes, in a lot of other people's eyes, in statistics eyes. No. But for someone on his level, that's what he tried to change, at least. And I mean, the NFL is almost admitting that they blackballed him for it.
Yeah. And look, again, will I concede, based on the statistics that you've shown me, that 99% of cases in 2015 have not resulted in any officer involved being convicted of a crime, and sure, a majority of those might involve a white police officer killing a black man. Of course, will have the statistics shown that black people may be killed at a higher rate than people of any other community. We acknowledge that Native Americans are killed more than. Absolutely, I'm acknowledging these things. Do they kill innocent black men? Abso-fucking-lutely. Those white cops that kill innocent black men in cold blood, should they go to jail? 100%. I am not arguing that by any extent at all. Am I arguing the validity of little bitty statistics? Sure, but what I'm saying is that
the .org. So.
Yeah, but statistics. So I mean, what are you going to base it off of? If it's not going to be on the numbers, if it's not going to be what you've seen, then what is it based on? I feel like every black person in America has a certain level of PTSD, because visually, to your point, say it's not as rampant as we may believe.
As
but
the social
visually,
media,
I'm seeing people that look like me.
Yes, multiple times.
Like, you go out to Iraq or whatever war you may fight. PTSD is based on what you've experienced and what you've seen, and what I'm seeing is affecting me.
But that's what you're being shown, and that's also a decision for you to look at that as well.
No,
right?
It's not. If I turn on CNN and I want to talk about, if I want to watch the news, I can't help the fact that they now divert to what's going on in the black community and this cop just killed somebody. Or if I'm on social media and want to follow Andrew's new photos, and now I see a black man just killed by an officer.
Yeah.
If you're connected at all,
I can't escape it.
Yeah, you kind of can.
What are you telling me? I can't just disconnect altogether.
I'm not saying to disconnect altogether, but if the narrative constantly being put in your face and being pushed to you is look at all these black men just dying and it is causing you PTSD, then cut that narrative out of your life. It's as simple as that.
So you're telling me as a black man I can't enjoy the same things as every other race?
No.
You know what, Terrence? So we, you read it, right? There's a book called Tribe by a guy named Sebastian Junger, and it's all about a lot about PTSD and a lot about military people, but also about tribes back in the day and how, and I say back in the day, I mean Native Americans, that war and killing and conflict was part of their community, that the entire community was involved in that. And because they were all involved in it, none of them had PTSD, because they could all understand what that person was going through. And it's not the events necessarily, but it's the lack of understanding of those events and how they affected a person that caused that PTSD. So it almost seems like nowadays there's not as much understanding with different groups to where that could bring about.
Let me
PTSD.
refute that with, if you go to the military, are you all not understanding together?
No, that's what they're saying, is that when you come home, that's when the PTSD comes out, when you're not around the people that understand it.
Because some people are from Georgia.
Because the people that experience it with you, and I'm saying outside of the black community.
Right. To your point, what is the most disenfranchised race and community? Is the black community.
Native Americans, by far. I'm just saying, man. It's Native Americans.
It's up for debate.
We
brought the Chinese here to work on railroads.
All right. If that's what you want to say, fuck what the most is. What is one of the most?
There you go.
Of course,
is the black community.
Of course, there's no question.
When I see these visuals,
not speaking
and I have no one to actually talk about this with.
Yeah.
And I have to process this by myself.
Sure.
Yep. Exactly. Sure. And that's a lot of people.
Then there's a problem.
But here's what I did.
We're not seeking any help for that.
And you know where you
how does that have an effect?
And this is kind of how, as obviously looking at it from the outside in, as being a white person looking at the kneeling, I looked at it as him kind of bringing everyone together on that issue. Like, this is an issue that we're trying to worry about together, but it's not. We don't have someone of that caliber. And you heard all the people saying, okay, stick to sports. Don't give me your opinion. I'm not one of those people. Everyone's a human. If you're gonna give this man a platform, he can use it for whatever the fuck he wants to use it for. That's where he's gonna go with it. And I think that with the kneeling, I'm curious right now as to why it still doesn't happen. Is it because Kaepernick and Reed were both blackballed?
No, but people are still doing it.
Are they still doing it? They're just not showing it.
They just don't show it.
They just don't show it on the TV.
Kenny Stills and another gentleman does it every game.
I'm pretty sure they have an agreement.
Marshawn just sits on the bench.
Yeah, he's always sat.
He's a different.
But there's guys that are still doing it. But it's always the one that leads the race. It's always the person that steps out in front first.
Yep. You're gonna get your head chopped off.
Feels the brunt of everybody's displeasure.
So let me ask you this. So say all cops stopped killing innocent, unarmed black men.
That's never going to happen.
No. Let's use this as a jumping off point. Let's say that did happen. What effect do you think that would have on our community? Would it cause significant change?
Would it cause significant change?
Yeah. All of a sudden, all innocent black men start getting killed by police. What would happen? What do you think would be the result of that?
That people continue to live their lives and be able to recover from mistakes they may have made.
Okay.
What are you getting at? Yeah, what are you getting at?
You're talking about it on
in hypothetical
some
terms.
Grand scheme. Yeah. I'm talking about
it's never gonna happen,
humanity, but I'm talking about Mike Brown.
I'm talking about results.
Mike Brown should be here today.
Okay.
I don't give a fuck about nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Brown should be able to breathe and have a conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're having right now.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter about any kind of overarching
Shouldn't
effect.
it? Shouldn't it?
No.
Wait, why?
No.
Why shouldn't it?
No. Because it's on a case-by-case basis where black men that are being killed for no reason, that life is being devalued. And it should not be.
That specific life may have been devalued
because he's black.
But why are we extrapolating that to? What about the other black people that cop ran into and did not kill? What about them?
You're trying to change the narrative.
I'm not trying to change the narrative. I'm just trying to be realistic about this.
I'm talking
Look,
about
if we're
black
saying
people that should be alive today,
I'm
they're not because of their skin color and
it's not
misunderstanding from law enforcement.
It's not because of their skin color, man. I'm telling you, bro. Because this is what I'm asking you. If it was simply a case,
it's gotta be sometimes though.
Of course it is sometimes. Of course, I'm not saying. Okay, I'm speaking in generalization. Of course, I'm not saying that every time it happens, it's justified. There are racist white cops that wake up in the morning and say, "I'm killing a nigga today." They should go to jail.
It doesn't even have to be a racist thing.
Or just assholes, or whatever.
You have to look at Louis Farrakhan used to have, not Louis Farrakhan, Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to have debates with KKK leadership. They used to have formalized debates.
I mean, you could actually do that, I guess, without people protesting.
You know
now
what?
You got to do it on podcasts.
It's the only way you could do it.
To hide.
The Nation of Islam and the KKK actually used to meet often. They agreed with each other because they both wanted separation.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
So they actually had the same plight. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and a lot of the leadership from the KKK used to meet with each other. And the KKK leadership used to say, we're going to take over because we're going to plant our guys into the infrastructure of politics.
Do you know that
it's going to be judges. It's going to be police commissioners.
Yeah, and it's very obvious that white men are disproportionately in those positions of power.
Right.
And I mean,
how do we know what organization they come
I understand that you like to play devil's advocate, and you do have these views. I understand that you're not just playing devil's advocate on a lot of them, but there's times where, at least me in my whiteness, I have to admit that there's these people in these positions of power, and they're going to be there for a long time because people don't fucking die for 80 fucking years. So they're in these.
And that's why I want that bitch out in Mississippi.
Exactly. They're in, and she's young. They're in political positions of power that they're going to be in for a very long time. And their views, as we've talked about, once you get to a certain age, you're fucking set.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I'm not, like you say, to where my views continually evolve and get better as I get older. But it most likely when you get old, you're going to be set in your ways. So these things are going to stay around for a long time, and it's hard to say because we can't get inside of a person's mind. But these biases have to be present in a lot of different people.
But that's why we have a democracy, and that's why we vote, to get certain people in and to get certain people out. We understand that we know, look, you old motherfucker, once you've been in there for an X amount of years, you're not changing, you're not doing shit different, so we got to get somebody else in there. So that's why we encourage people, both young, old, white, black, gay, straight, whatever, to get out there and vote, because that shit truly does matter.
So you live in a red state that's, I mean, predominantly red or predominantly blue,
sure,
and you know that your vote is not going to count, that you vote for one side and the other side's going to win. That's because this is how this state runs.
So fundamentally,
so is it a waste of a vote? Do you still vote?
You still vote, because fundamentally,
Why?
Because fundamentally, I do not believe in that. Because let's extrapolate this to something similar in the conversation we were talking about. Say if Martin Luther King had that same approach, what is one person's voice gonna do to change an entire nation? Imagine if he had that thought. That shit would an entire movement that empowered an entire group would never have happened.
Some type of YouTube video with good, marketing could have a much greater effect than one single vote for a politician that's really only gonna have their party's views in mind and not your individual, requisitions that you're thinking of.
It could be, but what I am advocating for is that you should never view it as that my vote or my voice does not matter. That should never be a stance that you ever take in this life for whatever reason. I don't care what we're talking about, because your voice does matter. And because it's like throwing a pebble into an ocean. Like, yeah, it a year for that ripple to get across that fucking pond, ocean, or whatever, but that ripple will eventually make a change. So you got to start somewhere. And if a bunch of people, we can list the names, not just Martin Luther King, we can go name by name. If these people had simply said, my voice does not matter, there's a lot of great things that would never have happened in this world. We wouldn't have fucking iPhones. We wouldn't have Facebook.
That's different. You're talking about placing a vote that nobody will ever know you placed as far as what direction you went. Different from somebody speaking out as an activist. That's a different.
Agreed. And I think, as you said, you can get it done in multiple ways. You're saying that you don't want. Ray is saying that you don't want your, someone's voice not to be heard. That's the worst thing you can do. Well, there's multiple ways to do it other than voting. And
sure.
I don't know. Sure. I just don't subscribe to that, and I find it to be almost a dated.
What, democracy?
No, not democracy, but that all votes matter.
Let me
because it all depends on where you're located.
So when do you count the vote that doesn't matter?
Why is gerrymandering such a big deal? Why is in terms of the presidential election, why is the popular vote not counting such a big deal? Because a lot of these things don't actually work. So sometimes your vote doesn't matter.
What I'm sitting in front of right now, I'm talking to Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. That's what's going on right now. I didn't know that's what I was walking into.
Nice.
Fuck with Max Kellerman.
Nice.
Stephen A. is not one of my favorite people.
Well, you know what? I've always liked Stephen A. So maybe that makes sense.
No, I mean,
Stephen A. is entertaining, but
he is.
I often feel Max often has a better viewpoint.
Well, because Stephen A. is there. I know he gets paid just to yell.
He
does. They're like, we're gonna measure your octaves during the broadcast. If you hit your new record, you get your bonus.
Then,
But Ray, you can't tell. So you're telling me right now, you're gonna tell me that Colin Kaepernick, his whole movement was a waste, is what it sounds like.
Oh no! Don't say
that's what I'm getting from this right now.
If you're getting the impression that I'm saying Colin Kaepernick's movement was a waste, then I think you're misreading what I'm trying to say. Look, Kaepernick did what he did with the purest and the best of intentions. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. I just don't think it was that well thought through. And that if he really wanted to do something...
When you say it's not that well thought through, we all agree maybe he's not the most...
the best
intellectual speaker. He's not the most professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he was the one that started it.
Yeah.
But he felt a need to put this out there. That was something that spoke to him. And I think it speaks to a lot of people. We can't try to vilify him or discount him based on... his
not perfect
knowledge,
by any means,
right? Or whatever homework that he may have done or not have done.
Right.
I disagree with him on a few things when he spoke out against. No, he didn't speak out against him. He promoted Fidel Castro.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people had a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the shirt he wore.
I had a problem. I had a bit of a problem with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go ahead and just discount somebody because they don't agree with you fully.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. No. And again, I think I've tried to make that point multiple times here that I do not discount what Colin Kaepernick was trying to accomplish. If anything, I commend him for raising awareness of an issue to that degree. Good job, man. But what I'm advocating for is like, now that you've got this platform, now that you've got people to pay attention to you, let's speak about some deeper things that can maybe now impact the same people you're trying to impact on a substantially deeper level. That's all I'm advocating for.
You can do that once you've made progress in the movement that you started. I don't think he ever made any progress.
He has $100 million to say he did.
That's how you measure the progress.
I'm not
measuring. He's also got like 50 organizations personal. That he donated.
I'm
money
talking
to,
about what has he been able to accomplish from.
So let me ask you this: why hasn't he spoken out since then? Other than that Nike commercial, why hasn't he sat down in a format like this to really elaborate on his views and what they are?
I don't think
my point. He's not that guy.
That's my point.
And I'm not condemning him for that.
He's not
He's just not that guy.
He's not the outspoken leader. He's more the face without the words.
So
can you be that? Are you allowed to?
Yeah, you're allowed to be that. But then why not? I feel like it would be better if he said, "Hey guys, I really do not know what I'm talking about, and I do not have the information."
Say that.
But it would be honest.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
It would be honest.
I mean,
guys,
what I try to assume that about everyone. You know that he's just giving us what he's got. You know, if he makes a mistake, he's the only
us what he got.
The only reason that it's a mistake is because it was on camera.
Yeah,
you know, it's because his life is so publicized and out there, and I mean, I make mistakes all the time.
Facts.
And nobody sees them because they're not recorded.
Look, the balls it took for Kaepernick, the things he sacrificed, his privacy, his family, his living, everything that this guy sacrificed. I commend you, Kaepernick, because few people on this planet, maybe in a different universe they do, but on this planet, few people have the balls and the gall to do what you did, and I fucking respect the shit out of you for doing that. But hey, Kaepernick, what I'm saying is, like, now that you've had some time to dwell on it and think a little bit, now that I'm hoping you've done a little bit more research into this, let's talk about some serious things that can now that you've had the platform, now that all eyes are on you, which is what you wanted, let's talk about some real hard-hitting shit that will have the impact that you actually wanted to have. That's my point.
Why do you mean that's what he wanted? I don't.
What was he doing? Okay, look, you can't say he was. What did he want then? Explain to me. What did he want?
He wanted to bring attention to something that he felt strongly about. That's it.
And now that the attention is there, you must. With great power comes great responsibility. Now that the power is there, you are entitled to do something with it, sir. You cannot garner.
Is that something that we start with?
What?
See, a lot of people wait too long because they think too much about what they want to accomplish. He felt strongly about something. He acted.
Yes.
And that's all we need to be focused on. That's all we need to be appreciative of.
No.
Because nobody else was doing that shit.
I disagree.
Well,
that is not because
you expecting too much of them. It's like going to church and expecting the preacher to live a holy life.
Yes, I do expect that. If you're going to preach that,
follow
you live
the
it.
message, not the man. You follow exactly what he's trying to convey to the congregation.
Of course.
If whatever he does in his personal life, I don't give a fuck.
What is the message you're following? Does it not have to do somewhat with the person that is conveying that message? And if that person has to be living a life,
problem.
It is
your problem.
It's a perception problem, and perceptions on an individual level. And
so if a psychopath is telling you how to live your life, as long as it's the right way, it doesn't matter. It's coming from a psychopath. I'm still gonna live that type of life.
Well, no. If the perception of him him.
I'm not. I'm
he's
giving
a psychopath, then no.
I'm giving you things to base it. I'm of course you know what you do with extreme. This is what you do with extreme examples. You give this overarching view, so then you can tunnel down into the point I'm eventually trying to make.
I mean, some people do have these extreme views, unfortunately. So
yeah, and that's the only point I'm trying to make to you, Terrence, is that now that what did he not think through what kind of attention this would garner? Did he not think through what type of responsibility that would give him? Then if he didn't, he's not worthy of it, and that's my point. So if you are good,
who are you to say he's not worthy of it?
Because look, if you do not think these things through and you have this much power and responsibility in your hands, then you have the obligation to then do something with it. And if you can't pass that power on to somebody else who can do something with that power, if you're gonna just sit on your hands and like, okay guys, I drew attention, okay, what the fuck was the point?
I mean, but he didn't just do that. He didn't just sit on his hands. And I mean, we went over it. There's a list of 50 fucking organizations. He donated at least $25,000 to.
He has a whole non-profit organization.
He did that entire campaign with Nike. It's not just about the money. I'm sure it's about the actual what the meaning of the campaign
to many organizations.
But
he has camps that he tries to educate people. Those are the things that you're not going to see on CNN.
Yeah.
Those are the things you're not even going to see on your Instagram. So you can't say that he hasn't done things outside of just taking a knee, because he's done a ton of things.
He also
he has
gave
a Know Your Rights
for it.
organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I respect him for that. I respect him for all the charity work he's done, all the money he's given back to the communities,
but you need more.
all that outreach. I'm not asking for more. I'm not asking for more. I'm not asking for more at all. I'm commending him for everything that he's done. What I'm saying is that you also have a voice. Speak. Why has he not spoken?
I don't know. You got to get on social media, man. Are you on social media? He puts out pictures on Instagram, I think. Okay. I used to follow him.
Okay.
Follow the I Know My Rights on Instagram and whatever other platform. That's his nonprofit organization where he's trying to create awareness and help people.
Another reason you don't hear from him a lot is because he's no longer has his platform. His platform is gone. His platform was the NFL. That is your platform. Everyone was telling him to stick to sports, stick to what he knows. The reason he had publicity and television time was the NFL. He doesn't have that anymore. He no longer has that. He's associated with the NFL, but he's not getting seen every single Sunday with his teammates. He's not. I mean, the man was in a Super Bowl. That's crazy that I don't even think about that when I think about him anymore.
Right.
He was in a Super Bowl at one point. And this is, he doesn't have that platform in order to deliver that message anymore. So I think he's doing it in different ways, but it's just not reaching as many people because it's not every Sunday, because people were fucking boycotting the NFL because of it, and now they're just not showing it, I guess, in order to get around that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, is he going to have the same television outreach because now that he's no longer playing in the NFL? Of course not. But does he still have a significant outreach with his social media platforms where he can reach millions upon millions upon millions of people? Of course he does. And that is another way that he can broadcast, like, hey, Kaepernick, you are helping charities. Look, broadcast that, man. We want to support you. We understand you risk your well-being.
He does broadcast it. You got to follow his movement.
Sure, okay. He broadcast it. Broadcast it louder. Come on. Why don't you come on?
He's not doing enough for you.
No. I'm not saying he's not doing.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, so here's what I'm asking.
You want CNN and all these other outlets to do it? They're not going.
No, I'm not asking for CNN. I'm asking, like, Kaepernick. A lot of people have bought into what stance you're taking. So why not do a podcast where you go on with somebody and just for an hour talk about the things you believe, what it is you're trying to accomplish, and really so we can get a real image of who you are as a man and what you're trying to do. Why not do that?
I mean, that's your recommendation. That doesn't mean that he hasn't thought about it or if it would be even sustainable. We don't know.
I'm not sustainable. It doesn't need to be sustainable. You need to just do
one podcast,
one interview.
What's the point in doing that?
What do you mean?
What's the point in doing? You
talking about what you stand for and believe. Somebody of that magnitude.
You talking about him creating a podcast?
No, not creating. I'm saying getting on a podcast or a YouTube channel or anything and really talking about what he stands for and what he believes. Why not?
We've all just confirmed he's not the most eloquent speaker.
Okay.
He's not.
And I would say,
everybody has different gifts. Everybody has different skill sets.
Yeah, and I mean, it
confirmed that's not his.
It also, everyone has a different definition of their reaching out to people, and I would say, I mean, fucking Nike touches a lot of people. A lot of people. And whether I mean, you think commercials are powerful or not, I mean, I would just direct you to how much a Super Bowl ad costs per second. It's $1 million.
Oh, okay. Well, forgive me for feeling sorry for a millionaire.
No,
forgive me that I don't feel sorry for a guy who has actually financed.
Nobody here is feeling sorry for him.
I'm just saying, I'm not feeling sorry for an individual who has actually profited off of this endeavor.
None of us here are feeling sorry. Nobody stated they feel sorry for Kaepernick. What we appreciate is him bringing attention to something that I feel near and dear to.
Okay.
And if you don't, then that's your thing.
I mean, I have a side thing that we can maybe not get off of this, but it's a separate thing. I was a little confused around the kneeling when everyone thought that it was a bash on the military and soldiers,
changing the narrative.
Yeah, and it was just but it just seems like, you know, Kaepernick saying it's for one thing, but there's a whole, you know, half of NFL fans, I don't know stats, but you know, it seems like half the NFL fans were saying, I'm not going to watch this because he's protesting against, you know the boys overseas that are fighting for us. And it's like, why does that mentality come into people with football? Why is it so fucking connected? The military and nationalism, almost. Maybe that's not the right word. But
I mean, it's
with football. Patriotism is what they like to call it. But it's also it
might have a little something to do with them rolling out a giant ass fucking flag
at every single game. And I get it.
It might have a little something to do with
military.
That.
I mean,
the military
all respect
pays the NFL.
to the military.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about money, man.
NFL. It's about recruitment, is what it's about.
Right, and they view the NFL doing that as a way to recruit.
Oh, of course,
more people to come into.
I mean, it looks sweet with the flag on the field sometimes,
and the jets flying overhead.
But at the same time, it's like I don't understand others that, and I brought this up to Ray before, Terrence. I don't understand people that get so bent out of shape. I mean, we're in the outrage culture now, but if it doesn't affect you, why are you upset? If there's these situations where
I don't agree with that.
I was going to say, I had to push back to that as well.
I mean,
we probably don't agree with that from the same perspective.
All right, go ahead.
But
maybe I should explain a little more. So in terms of this situation, if we'll say your average NFL fan, maybe a 45-year, well, maybe not average, but there's a 45-year-old white man watching the NFL, and he gets pissed at someone kneeling for that reason. If that does not affect him, in no way is that his issue or about him, and he's making that about him. That's what these things do. People want to be involved, and they're not involved, and they want to be upset because that makes them involved.
Right.
So how do you disagree? I'm just curious.
I would say real quick, here's an analogy I have. Let's say you paid for a porn between a woman and a man, and then like there was just two dudes fucking.
Okay.
You'd be upset,
for
right?
Porn in 2019, you ought to be.
You're a fucking idiot.
I also would say that affects me.
But I mean, but still, like, I was using that analogy to you're paying for this entertainment and you're spending your good money on it, so you just want to get exactly what you're paying for. And to some people, that also entails like me not seeing anything that is an affront to my beliefs.
Curb those expectations. Live in the real
Honestly,
world.
No,
That's what I would say.
Dude, I agree on that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that that's why
they don't televise the anthem when it's the regular season.
No,
I haven't seen.
You know what?
Kickoff
they used to,
and
though, right?
It doesn't affect you.
Wait, they used to, right?
Not that I know.
Actually,
They never did they?
wait.
I feel like I know I've seen the flag on the field.
Now you just
Flag
see the
on the
highlights,
field.
and now you're making it a part of your life. So I agree with what Andrew's saying. You've made that a part of your life because maybe you have nothing else better to do, or you have these views that maybe considered racist, whatever the case may be. But you found your way to make yourself a part of it when it doesn't affect your everyday life.
But but I think the issue is here is that people feel like their core beliefs are being tested now, and I'm not saying that it's okay or it's justified. But what I'm saying is, say for example, you were going to a Christian show, and then some atheist started preaching. That's how they view it. Now, whether they are right or wrong, that's the feeling that they get from that. So it's an affront to the things that they stand for and believe in. Right or wrong, I'm just saying I think that's the perspective
that's
from
probably,
which it comes from.
Yeah, some people
you know?
cannot control their
Right.
their fucking urges to tell people that they
Right.
don't agree with
And
them
if I'm paying for the NFL package, which is $200 extra on top of what I'm paying for, and I'm going to games, which is all this money, then it's like I just
still
want.
poses the question.
What's that?
If it doesn't affect you, why do you care? In that situation, that person, he's paying all that money. He still gets to see his NFL game. Someone's kneeling. Look to a different part on the field. Why do you care? That's even in other situations. Just when there was all those protests in Ferguson, there were all the Black Lives Matter protests, and people were getting upset that there was a group specifically dedicated to, preserving black life, and that they thought it was a affront to, if you're not black, then we're not preserving your life. And everyone got bent out of shape that okay, they're not talking about me right now, so I need to get in there and I need to put myself in there because it's not about me right now. So it's the same situation. If it doesn't affect you, why do you care?
100%. And let me ask Ray this question: do you believe that black unification, black preservation, is that a word?
Yeah,
it can be
preservation.
Sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's a word. Yeah.
Yep.
Black. I'm deep into the Kraken at this point. So I have to ask.
I love it. I'm a couple in, so I'm catching up. Yeah.
Is black preservation, is black unification? Do you see that the masses, that the people in power deem that as a threat? Do you believe that or no?
Do I believe that black people uniting together is a threat to who? Like the government, white people, or just to some people? Yes, I do believe they view it as a threat, but to most people, no. I believe most white people are like, yeah, cool.
I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about I'm with you on that. I'm talking about what we talked about with the Panthers earlier in the episode. Their issue was more so the unification that they could possibly do. Now we're talking about Kareem Hunt gets a job after being violent against women. We're talking about, what was his name? Greg Hardy got a job. We're talking about the guy that the Redskins signed.
Yeah, I forget his name.
That was abusive against women. This is maybe an opportunity for women to organize, and they've tried to do so, but along with the movement with Kaepernick, because they're both being disregarded in this situation. Do you feel that?
Yeah, you're right. You don't hear anything about the women in these
The
situations
women need
whatsoever.
to have a louder voice.
No.
The
And I mean,
women
violent men
need
on
to
the
be
field.
boycotted. There was a movement
they're
to
violent
boycott
7 days a week. They're going to be violent at home.
Right.
No.
There was a movement to boycott the NFL from a black perspective that wasn't organized, and I never got behind it because it wasn't organized. What are we asking for? What is the cause really about?
I heard a lot of people talking about that this year.
Me too.
But
Not really sure why though.
I can get behind something if we have demands, and we're saying these demands need to be met or else.
Like Mute Mississippi.
That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like Mute Mississippi.
Had to get that
Boys
in
in the
there.
Huddle Podcast.
Hashtag Mute Mississippi.
We're asking for something.
Eminem, but not the white one.
But what I'm saying is, do you really believe that there's not a threat from the unification of black people? Because we've seen Kaepernick's stance. He hasn't gotten a job. But we've seen the abuse of women. We've seen the abuse of drugs be accepted. But someone doing something peacefully was not accepted because it was unified a group of people.
Yeah.
Do you telling me you don't believe that there's something there?
So I think getting back to the point that you initially made, that the NFL primarily was more against Kaepernick's stance, not because he was a black male, but because it was putting their deal with the military in jeopardy, which is a ton of money, which is why they were primarily concerned. And in general, I do not think that there are people who are against black people as a whole, getting together and coming up. Do I believe that there may be a few people? Do I believe it's a systematic agenda to keep black people down? No. Do I believe that there are few people in power?
You don't think the NFL cares about their women demographic?
I do think they care about their women.
So then why haven't they blackballed the people that have been abusive against women? But they blackballed a man peacefully kneeling against police brutality against black people.
Because they get more money from the military than they do from women?
How do we know that? How do we know that? You just saying that. Do you think the women ticket sales, do you think the women's apparel does not supersede what's going on, whatever their endorsement is with the military? We don't know. So you can't just say that. You can't just say that.
You're right. I'm making a stretch here, but I'm assuming that typically it's financially motivated, and I'm assuming that with the extremely large.
That's all it's about.
I think it comes down to money. Yes, absolutely.
You think that's all it's about?
If Colin Kaepernick was not affecting their bottom line, they wouldn't give a fuck. And
I need to have you on for the conspiracy theory podcast too.
Yeah. So it could, just like with the women's situation,
it wasn't wrong. Just saying it
wasn't
goes deeper, is what you're saying.
With the women's situation, it wasn't affecting their bottom line. So they were just like, hey, you guys can play again.
Well, this needs to be an opportunity for the women groups. There was a women's march not too long ago to galvanize and just like. Well, brings to Fred Hampton. This episode needs to be called just call this episode Fred Hampton.
Fred Hampton. Okay.
Because Fred Hampton was trying to do something similar. Yeah. But people who felt disenfranchised, the people who felt that they were being ignored, came together.
And here's the thing.
And that's what needs to happen.
You're absolutely right, because women make up 80% of consumer decisions in our economic market. So if women took a stand against fucking anything that was consumer based, they would change the decision almost instantly, but they don't. Or whether they don't care to, or it doesn't affect them enough to do so, they do it. So, I mean, if women felt that strongly about boycotting the NFL, if they had made that decision with their dollar, they would have caused the NFL to make some harsher decisions than they did. But they chose not to.
I think part of it, too, is that the NFL doesn't want to admit fault with a lot of the I mean, there's definitely some fault in the domestic violence there, in terms of they're putting these people through obviously very violent situations that cause them head trauma that could then cause them to be violent at home. And I think in that situation, Kaepernick versus that, they don't want to give a lot of attention to that, because they kind of are a little bit at fault there when they show the medical studies about how these hits affect the brain, and how all they want you to do is, they'll pour money into you as long as you just give your body for them.
But when we have clear cases of this, and you continue to give these people another chance to give them a job.
Yep. It's always happened, though. I mean,
it's different.
They've done it with murderers, and I mean, who was it?
Ray Lewis.
No, the guy with
he
the
wasn't
Browns.
Convicted.
No, the guy with the Browns, the manslaughter charge that he ran a guy over drunk.
The wide receiver that used to play for us.
He used to play for
Stalwart. Dante Stalwart.
Yeah. And he came back to the NFL. I mean, you see Michael Vick redeem himself after some dog things. It all depends on how you view the severity of these different things happening. And I would say that at least
none of these cases have anything to do with women being abused.
No, what I'm saying in terms of with women, that's something that's, I mean, it goes back a long time to where women were treated as property and abused by men in their life, and it's only still very recent that these are things that are against societal norms. Men being violent are with societal norms.
But what I'm saying is, you continue to give people who have made those offenses of a job.
Yeah, they do, because that's their job. They're doing their job at home as well. They're just doing it off the field when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say is not only
they're paid to be violent, whether it's on the field or not. That's what they're doing. And I mean,
but
they want
the fact that you continue to give them a job, you continue condone and promote it.
Right, because it doesn't affect their bottom line. And also what he's saying is they don't want to be culpable, because if studies do come out that the head trauma that these individuals
already been out.
Yeah. Right, but
they've already been out.
So they don't want that to be used as proof to show that they're beating these women because they have head trauma.
Those studies are already out there.
No, but they haven't been directly linked to them causing NFL players to act out violently, not only towards women but towards other people. And if it does come out that, hey, this NFL player had CTE when he abused this woman, so not only is the player exculpable, the NFL is liable at that point, and that's what they don't want. Where with Kaepernick, it's a clear-cut case.
So you think that they're continuously giving jobs to these domestic violence abusers because of that? Do you think they're strategically bringing them back into the fold because of that?
No, so that I
it all
think
depends
that was
on your skill level too. Because if you're not going to make money for a team,
They don't give a fuck.
It has shit to do with that. It has to do with, can I still monetize off it?
Yep. Yeah.
It's still a slave mentality.
Yes.
Can I continue to monetize you?
No, look. I mean,
Has nothing to do with
and with Kaepernick,
any
they were
other
losing money more than they were making money. So
exactly.
go.
Yes.
He
Get out of here. Yeah.
that's the only thing
I mean,
keeping
that's all
NFL.
of them. That's every single sport. You're
Yeah.
seeing it right now, just as we talked
Right.
about with baseball. They're not going to pay these free agents because they don't fucking have
So
to.
you saying it's up to the women to have a stronger stance against the NFL?
Point blank. Period. If women start
You're
making
right. I mean, if
decisions
they're-
with their dollar, I
and-
promise you the NFL
well,
will respond.
not even with their
immediately.
dollar. I mean,
Wait,
there's
TV
all
time
these.
out. TV time out. I'm gonna let you get into your point. Look at what women did with breast cancer. What happened? Pink the entire month of October. As soon as women start talking with their dollar, the NFL acts fucking quickly. Now go ahead and make
I'm
your point.
pretty
I just
much
wanted to say
agreeing with
that.
you, just with in terms of them organizing, especially what we've seen in the last year or two with different women's marches and things like that. I mean, if they were to do something like that against the NFL, it would definitely change would take place. I would
So
think, for
quickly,
sure.
women make an overwhelming majority of the market decisions in our economy. They are the women. Women are mostly the ones who stay home, so they're the ones buying almost everything.
So why don't you think they've done it?
Because I don't think they. Again, I think it gets back to that thing. If there is cognitive dissonance, so if it's not happening to me directly, if I'm not getting beat by my husband,
And there's not a ton of videos.
And there's not
the
you know,
videos
right.
really make it more real than anything. And
Right.
I mean, just like with the
But we're just talking about NFL.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have the face of the girl. But I think that was UFC. The porn.
Oh
chick.
yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah,
UFC.
yeah.
That was
They almost
UFC.
killed her. That shit was
Yeah,
crazy.
that was wild.
That shit was wild.
Yeah.
But
But another violent sport with head trauma.
Right, we have
For sure.
another combat sport that involves that. But you have Hardy with the Cowboys.
Yep.
He was with the Panthers before that. You have Ray Rice. You have Joe Mixon. You have Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
How many more videos do you need?
I think it is. Also,
No, it's not. I don't think that you need more videos. I think that you've only seen this a few times. There's been reported incidents of it, but it's not something to where maybe women view it as a.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
think it's a more accepted
I'm
form
just
of-
trying to find reasons.
I think
why
Andrew's
why
right.
wouldn't.
I think Andrew's right in this one in that it is a more acceptable form of behavior by men, not only because of the sport that they're being promoted to do, whether it be UFC, whatever. You're encouraged to be violent, and it's hard. Those lines do get blurred a lot, and also that there's expectation amongst men and amongst women that is typical behavior of men. So there is not this immediately visceral reaction, though there is at times, but it's not enough to encourage enough people to make a decision with their wallet, because it's just like, well, that's what. Hey, if you get with an NFL player who's 6'6", 275, that's going to happen from time to time. So people see it in that light rather than like, yo, this is an example of behavior that is completely unjustified. I think people have a way of like, dude, it's you're with an NFL player, what the fuck do you expect type thing, you know? So, but women can do that. And just like, I'll make this last point about, you know, it always intrigues me when women, and they do the WNBA commercials and all that. It's like, women, do you understand that if majority of women who watch NBA just suddenly decided to watch the WNBA, immediately the ratings will change over fucking night. So it's not men who are just trying to hold you down and make sure that the WNBA is not popular. It's like, women, you are watching basketball at a very high clip as well. If you watch the WNBA, you would drive the ratings through the fucking roof. You know, you are the greater population. So I think if women just took the reins into their hand and said, hey, I want the WNBA to be more popular. I want guys who beat women to be out of the NFL, and made a decision with their wallets, that shit would change instantly.
I don't think their wallets equal the amount of money that the NFL makes from these individual players playing the sport. So it's really going to have to be something huge in order to make some type of change, because Kareem Hunt's going to make the NFL a shit ton of money next year while the Browns try to make a playoff run.
Look, Kaepernick as an individual, look what happened to him, right?
Yeah, he made them lose a shit ton of money.
Right, and it's exactly. So if women started making this, they would. it would be significant if women decided to take their dollar out of the NFL. It would so significantly impact the NFL that I think they would make whatever decision women wanted them to make at that point. Women support the NFL in a large number, man. There's a lot of women buying jerseys, merchandise, going to games, watching the NFL. If all of those women suddenly decided to pick up and say, yo, fuck that, y'all not gonna beat women and we not gonna stand for it, yo, oh my, look, and again, I'll use the same example. When women said, yo, there needs to be something done for women in breast cancer, and they made a push and they presented the right amount of money to the NFL, they made that decision without batting a fucking eye. And I'm telling you, if women banded together and were like, yo, you support if a team supports a man that's beat some women and we're not going to give them our dollar, they change up instantly.
I think the women population in the black community is very similar to where there isn't the unification that it needs to be. If you look at the white women that voted for Trump was at a high rate, and they didn't vote for people that look like themselves. So I think there's an opportunity for women in the black community to come together against the NFL and to maybe make some change, because I think it's very similar to where
power in numbers,
but just naturally there's some sense of hate against oppressed people, people that look like themselves, because of the years of oppression.
Sure.
Women have been oppressed for many years, as we know. Black people have been oppressed for many years, and I think that builds up a sense of hate against your own.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's an opportunity there to create some change against the NFL.
No, I mean, I would definitely agree. If women and black people ever decided to just put their collective dollars together and make any financial decision in this economy, corporations would adjust immediately. But like you said, the hardest thing to do is to generate that type of community in order to get everybody to move in one direction.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do it, if it's possible. Yet, like you pointed out, the last few people who've tried to do it have been shot in the fucking face. So I don't know if anybody's stepping up to the plate soon.
The interesting part is
it's
easier now than ever.
Yes.
It's easier now than ever with social media to try to organize and try to
It is. You're right.
put people
You're right.
together. But it seems
It was you
know
that once told me
Mm-hmm.
that.
By
I don't
me,
know
he
when
means
this was.
Ray.
Yeah, it was something about, being organized as the only way to get things done. And
Yes.
I think you said something about being violent was the only way to get things done too. I don't remember.
That definitely sounds like me.
But yeah, I mean, you've definitely said that before.
But here's the one downside about social media. Though it does give ubiquity to the voices that can be heard, it lowers the barriers of entry. So before, in order for you to be seen or heard, you had to bring something to the table that was essentially valuable to everybody. But now, since the barriers have been lowered so much because anybody can enter into the market, you cannot differentiate between the people who actually have something to say and the people who are full of shit. So
Yeah.
that's what happens. So yes,
We've
you do
come
make
full
it
circle.
easier,
Well,
but
yeah.
make you harder. But you make it harder in a much more significant way. Well, not much more significant.
And
but
to piggyback
different way.
on that, social media makes people care more so about themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they're their own mini celebrity.
yeah,
through
of course.
social
Of
media.
course. It makes you look
So
great.
it doesn't necessarily bring people together, but it gives you the ability to do so.
Yes, it definitely does.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has its good powers and its evil ones, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Right.
We've almost come full circle with that in terms of people wanting to, insert themselves in the conversation and having to be in it, even though it does affect them.
And I love conversations like this because, I mean, I'm gonna go home, Terrence, and I promise you've said some stuff that I'm gonna make me go home and like shit. I gotta rethink a lot of the things that I've been thinking, and I mean, I would hope that that's what people take away from this conversation. Is
That's
like,
why we started it.
yo, I just want people to be able to challenge each other and say, like, because I think we get locked in these ways of thinking because a lot of your thinking is you're spending it doing it on your own, and very rarely do you have the opportunity to
Bounce
present
it
that way of thinking to another individual to say, hey, am I batshit crazy, or is what I'm saying actually valid?
Well, I think you mentioned it on an earlier podcast, but called steel manning.
Yeah.
Your argument where
Yep.
you try to, even if they do seem kind of out there and crazy sometimes, you take different viewpoints that may be in opposition to your side of the argument, because some people out there are going to have those. You know?
Yeah.
They're going to have those extreme points of view. So you have to make sure that when you get into those situations, you are able to say your piece and say it with facts and clearly.
But we have to be able to have the dialogue collectively and not be confrontational.
Of course.
We listened to each other today, and it was a good thing because it wasn't necessarily confrontational. We didn't agree on everything.
Oh,
exactly.
I would hope not.
That's what we're here for.
I would hope not.
It was an opportunity for us to hear other opinions and, have some counters to that or some rebuttals to it, but it wasn't combative to where we were at each other's throats.
Right. No, and that's what we try to do here.
Yeah, and exactly, and I
in
think
the studio.
And I think like me and you, Terrence, talking. Of course, obviously, not to downplay us talking, Andrew, but me and you talking, Terrence, is I think very crucial because we are two black men who sit on two different sides of, it looks like the dividing line necessarily. I don't want to call it a dividing line, but we have two different opinions. We agree on some things, disagree on a lot of others.
Right.
But I love that this conversation happened to show that like we can still disagree, but at the end of the day, it's like I fuck with you as a human being.
Right.
I hope the best for you.
Respect level.
But
so
you do see what I'm saying?
Be at each other's throat.
Right. Where like I feel like most people who have an opinion like mine, they're automatically cast to the side. Like we can't even have this discussion. But you're willing to sit here and like talk to me
Very good.
and go.
Did y'all see the Vice episode with the black Republicans?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was very interesting. And what I took away from that is black people need to stop casting away people that have a different opinion than
it's like if you don't go by this script, you're not a black person. You're Uncle Tom. You're a coon. You're a and it's like, but wait, I'm still on your side.
Right.
I just think slightly differently, and I have a different approach. Why can't we meld
Doesn't
our
mean
two?
we can't still work together. Doesn't
That's
mean
my
we
point.
can't come together and figure things out together.
And figure out a solution that works for everybody. Because that's what we want. Andrew, you, we all want the same thing. We want all of us in this fucking room to level up and be successful and be happy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so why can't, no matter how different our opinions are, why can't we strive to make that happen?
No, I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we're trying to get across here at Revolutionary Instigators, right?
You dig?
Well, I mean, we did a little over. We just hit 2.5 hours, actually.
Oh, shit.
So,
Right
you guys got anything
time.
else to add?
Terrence, you want to?
Boys in the Huddle Podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify.
Yeah.
We're on Public Radio. Or Radio Public. Spreaker, if you have that. So check us out. A lot of these same topics. So we're going to have you guys on as well.
Looking forward to it.
Let
us know when.
Yeah. It might be soon because I got to fire the motherfucker.
Oh, man.
Y'all better check them Philly boys out, man. They spitting some hot shit over there.
We appreciate you coming on. Yeah, check out Boys in the Huddle when you get a chance.
Been a pleasure.
We're out.
You dig?